Good evening, everybody. Welcome. We call to order a meeting of the Havre Grace Mayor and City Council. The time is 7:01 p.m. The date is February 5th, 2024. I will call the roll of the council. Council President Ringsacker.
Here.
Councilmember Robertson. Absent. Councilmember Jones. Councilmember Boyer.
Here.
Councilmember Schnegas.
Here.
Councilmember Boger.
Here.
We have 5 council members present. If everyone could join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and opening prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I could kindly ask everyone to remain standing, as it gives me great pleasure to invite Miss Robin Stokes, Ames United Methodist Church. Prayer. Evening, Miss Stokes. It's good to see you again.
Good evening, everyone.
Absolutely.
Let us pray. Lord God Almighty, with grateful hearts, we come to say thank you. Thank you for your presence as we move through this day. Thank you for your grace and your mercy for allowing us once again to gather in your name. We pray, Lord, for your perfect peace upon our mayor and council members and all of the town of Havre Grace. In this room, where decisions of significant importance are made, let your ways be known to them so that their work reflects your light in all that is said and done. In this time of uncertainty and challenges, Lord, may we be instruments of your strength and peace. Help us to stay focused on you, for we know that there is nothing you cannot do. Lord, grant us power to live by faith and not by sight. In Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. Lord, we pray for hope over despair. We pray for recovery over depression. We pray for justice over injustice. We pray for healing over pain. We pray for shelter over homelessness. We pray for forgiveness over anger. May we be of one mind, united in thought and purpose. Search us, dear Lord. Keep within us a clean heart, that we love, seek, and achieve only that which is good. And as we go forward, keep us in your protection and guidance. Let us embrace each new day with our faith in you and the confidence in all that you have promised us. Lord, we lift this prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Ms. Stokes, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here this evening. Please be seated. We're going to go to item number 5, the approval of the minutes from the council meeting of January 16, 2024. Council, I have a motion to approve the minutes.
Second. Oh, so moved.
All right. We have a so moved from Councilmember Jones,
I thought I heard a voice.
and we have a second from Councilmember Boger. Questions or comments on the minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. City Council meeting minutes of January 16, 2024 are approved 5-0 in the affirmative. We're going to go to item number 6, which is comments from citizens. This is the part of this evening's agenda. If you're here to speak on an item that is on the agenda, now's the time to do so. This is also the time, if you're here to speak on any other matter of city business, to speak as well. So what I'm saying is this is the time to speak. The only reason I say that is in years past, we used to have agenda items in the beginning and matters of city business all at the end, but we felt bad for everybody that was staying for 3 hours just to say one sentence about something, and we moved it up earlier for citizens' convenience, so that's why I clarify that. So what I normally do is if anybody pre-filled out a form online or here to speak, I will call on those citizens first. After I call on those citizens, any citizen wishes to speak and address the council, just raise your hand and come on up. So the first person form, I'd like to call forward Mr. Don Mathis. It's nice to see you, Mr. Mathis. It's been a while. May we please have your name and address for the record?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Don Mathis. I live at 305 Tidewater Drive in Havre, Grace.
Welcome.
Welcome. Glad to see you. I'm here representing the Board of Directors of the Hartford TV Foundation. And why this is relevant to Havre, Grace is we have booked the Cultural Center at the Opera House on March 13th for a live audience and a broadcast on Hartford TV for a show that's called Facing Addiction in Hartford County, Finding Facts, Solutions, and Hope. And we will have 6:30 to 8 o'clock. We'll do an audience warm-up for 6:30 to 7, go on the air at 7 for an hour. We've got a bunch of panels with leading experts, physicians, research. Our topics are threefold. What's the state of affairs in Hartford County around drugs now? You may have heard of fentanyl, you may have heard of xylazine, it's creating words, you may have heard of nitazine. I see the chief nodding your head. These are familiar, unfortunately, terms. What's the status here? What's working in Hartford County would be the second panel, and the third one is where do we go from here? So it's going to be broadcast on live TV, and I work at Voices of Hope. You may have seen us at First Friday. I'm one of the peer counselors there. And what I've learned through my work with young people and peer counselors is what makes a difference in solving the addiction problem is when everybody comes together. When law enforcement works with schools, works with municipal government, works with faith-based organizations, works with civil rights organizations. Thank you, Councilwoman Jones, and other groups to come together and really address the problem. And the mantra is, together we can solve this problem. When we know more about addiction, we can do better. So I invite you March 13th. I'm working with, we've already paid our deposit to the city. We'll be getting a invite out to reserve tickets on May 14th, and I invite you to come. I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mathis. Thank you. Okay, I do have a form filled out. I'd like to call forward Ms. Jolene Forrester. Good evening, Jolene. Welcome. May we please have your name and address for record?
Jolene Forrester, owner of Joe Retro, 137 North Washington Street. This will be our 8th year hosting the Pyrex and Vintage Fest in Havre de Grace. It's a biannual festival. It attracts vendors and collectors from several states, and it's a fun shopping day in downtown Havre de Grace. We estimate over 1,500 people attend the festival, and that number increases each year. Many merchants and restaurant owners mention having additional visitors to their businesses during the previous events. The antique malls especially show an increase in traffic and sales during the weekend of the festival. We are happy to have Havre de Grace Chamber of Commerce as our sponsor. They are a great resource in promoting and growing the event. Last year, we were able to donate $5,000 from vendor fees to the Chamber. This donation helps the nonprofit assist the downtown merchants with activities and events throughout the year. Last year, we had our first meet and greet event the night before, creating additional revenue for downtown venues. Pyrex and Vintage Fest brings many first-time visitors to our town who share their stories and vintage finds on social media. These posts help promote all the positive reasons to visit, stay, shop, and dine in Havre de Grace. Last year, we had visitors from as far away as Texas, Florida, and California. I will request the September 28th event in a few weeks with possible alternative locations due to the future downtown restoration project and how that might impact Pennington Avenue. For this April event, I kept everything the same as we've done in the past, and if that needs to change, I'm open to any suggestions. Thank you, Mayor and City Council, for considering our request for the Pyrex and Vintage Fest on April 27th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Forrester. Thank you very much. And you do a great job, by the way, with the festival. We absolutely love it. Okay, that was the only pre-filled out form. Those are the two pre-filled out forms I had. So if you are here tonight to speak to the council, address on city business, please raise your hand. Yes, sir, all the way in the back. Please come forward. Welcome, former council member Dave Martin. Good to see you.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. Mayor, esteemed council members, staff, I have two comments. One, I want to thank George Lytle for all his time on the Water and Sewer Commission. I know he recently stepped down. And again, thanks to Fred Wills for stepping up to take that position. Speaking of the water and sewer, I have one question. I know their report is coming due shortly. The question, Mr. Broker, and to the council, have you taken chance to talk about the recommendation from last year about going from the council to a permanent chair as a citizen permanent chair? I don't know if that's ever had a chance to be discussed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Martin. Oh, you go. Sure.
Thank you, Mayor Martin, I appreciate that. And Councilmember Martin, I appreciate the comments. There is ongoing discussions creating the citizen chair. Very instrumental work that you did at your time sitting here. The water and sewer has made great strides forward, and there is some ongoing discussions as it pertains to that. And the second thing I'll say is I want to give a shout out to the merchants, especially with the Joe Retro, Jolene Forrester, who made a comment earlier today. This is a shining example of citizen merchant actually do it like it's going back into the Chamber of Commerce, right? I know the Alliance had done this for quite some time, and this actually really helps the city holistically from an enterprise perspective. Of course, we have a lot of events that go on in the city, and every time we put an additional DPW person on the ground, every time we put an additional officer on the ground, that creates a bit of a strain on the city, right? And I still don't know to this day, kind of how they do it, right? So, but the merchants, they're respectful of that. They keep that in mind, and I just want to say, for myself, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Boger. And yes, sir. This is former council member night. Former council member Joe Smith. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council, staff. It's always a pleasure again to be back in the chamber. I'm real quick since I'm here primarily to hear more about the Amtrak presentation. Since I'm here and Jolene submitted her application, I wholeheartedly, as a fellow merchant at Glyph Design Studio, want to encourage you to support that, which I know and I'm sure you will. The Pyrex Festival is a draw into the city. It does help other businesses outside of Jolene. It brings more traffic into town, and it's a great example of the type of event we'd love to see more of in the downtown district. It's really it's a quintessential Main Street event, and the reason why I say that is because it's focused on more of a shopping atmosphere and versus an entertainment atmosphere. And First Fridays are great, and it brings a lot of people into town, but those people are mostly there to enjoy the atmosphere and to get outside and to be with their friends and family. And they do come into the stores, and sometimes they shop, and sometimes they come back later, which is great. But the Pyrex Festival, people come in and really spend more time in the stores. So wholeheartedly support that. And then I also, since I'm up here, I also wanted to give a shout out to the city for picking up the Ice Festival this past weekend. It was a complete surprise, I think, to most of us on the turnout, and I think it was a combination of a number of things. Great promotion, good weather. It was cold enough to keep the ice from melting too fast, but not so cold to keep people home. And I think all of us merchants, we're on our private Facebook page, we talk about how things went, and I think everyone has said that they've had numbers that were close to what we had during the December month, you know, like Plaid Friday type of numbers. I know for our store we did that. So very much appreciative of the efforts of the city and in supporting that, and hope that we can in the future look to have more cooperation, more discussion about, you know, some of the details and maybe the hours and so forth. So great job. So again, wholly support Jolene in her application and look forward to future events. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Who else wishes to address the council this evening? Any comments from the council? Okay, without any further speakers or comments from the council, we'll move on to item 7. Item 7 is appointments. This evening we have no appointments. Item 8 is recognitions. This evening there are no recognitions. Item 9 is proclamations, and we are not proclaiming anything tonight. Which takes us to item 10, presentations. And we have 4 great presentations. I'm sure they'll all be extremely informative. We're waiting for this. So we're going to start off with our guest who we invited here, the Amtrak Susquehanna River Rail Bridge Project, the Amtrak project team. So the floor is yours, however you want to present and what order you wish to bring everybody up. So welcome, everybody.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Mayor, Council Member, and good evening to the residents. Thank you for inviting us tonight to present an update on the Susquehanna River Bridge program. So, couldn't hack so perfect timing. So a quick overview on the Amtrak program: improve reliability, passenger comfort, trip frequency. It also reduces costs, maintenance costs, operation costs, and really provide an increase in capacity for the future. Right? And overall, we anticipate regionally creating north of 14,000 jobs and about 9,000 induced jobs within the state of Maryland. The current project overview conditions, current conditions of the bridge. Please, it's constructed in 1906. It's a movable span, which take a very long time with age to open and close. And it's a reduced speed of 90 miles per hour. It's, as you could imagine, with this structure, this age, it's escalating in maintenance costs and insufficient for operation costs. And it's impeding overall on the marine traffic. With that, I think I turn it over to Pete.
Thank you, Dexter. My name's Pete Mazzio, and I want to also say thank you for having us. I'm the project manager for the design engineering team. And I'm going to go through a couple overviews for those of you that may not be familiar with the project. Then I'll hand it over to Kevin Poe to go through some of the other updates. So as far as the existing operations, and I think you guys have lived this, it's a very busy bridge. It sees 80 to 90 Amtrak trains as well as 12 to 14 MARC trains and Norfolk Southern. That's the freight trains that come through at night. What you might also want to know is that CSX has operating rights. Even though they don't use the bridge right now, they do have permission to do that. As far as the project itself, this was established back in 2017 during the NEPA phase. It's basically covers about 5 miles altogether of railroad, and it replaces the existing 2-track bridge with 2 new 2-track bridges. So it'll be a total of 4 tracks over the river once we're done. Here in Havre de Grace, you're also going to see several of the grade separation, the smaller bridges being replaced in order to provide for those extra tracks. And overall, what you'll also see and everybody will experience is really a modernization of the corridor. Like Mr. Fordyce said, it's right now it's a bit of a bottleneck, but that'll be improved as well as safety and security. So as far as the overall timeline, and some of you might have experienced this already, we started this back in 2013, so it's been a long time coming. And back then, we started with an inspection and worked our way through a feasibility study, looking at various alternatives, whether to rehab the bridge versus replace the bridge, what type of bridge to replace it with. In all that, there was extensive screening. We looked at about 25 different alternatives. There were public meetings. My predecessor, who was probably here meeting with you guys and presenting previously, we went through stakeholder meetings, comment evaluations, and that all led up to 2017 when the NEPA document was approved. As part of that, there was a programmatic agreement, and that's been the sort of the roadmap through final design. So through 2017 to now, we did have some COVID issues like everybody else with some shutdowns, some financial challenges, but at this point, we're moving towards wrapping up final design, and if you saw, we actually started some work today out in the river with the remnant piers. Some of the bird netting was going up in preparation of demolition that's scheduled for this summer. So things are moving quickly here. We have a construction firm on board, what's called a CMAR, that will be in charge of putting out the contracts to build the bridge. We also have a project manager, construction manager on board to help facilitate the process. So this year, like I said, there's going to be some smaller projects, and then next year, 2025, things will really start ramping up. And right now, the construction's projected to go out to 2036. So we'll be back quite a bit, giving you guys updates on that. But for today, I want to pass it over to Kevin Poe to give you some updates of where we are.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you having us here. I'm going to dive into the details a little bit and just give you all an overview, more into the design. We'll start with the bridge. It's a bridge project. The main river crossing, as you all know, it's a long bridge, it's just shy of a mile from abutment to abutment. The river crossing has 23 spans, including a 400-foot navigation channel span where the boats cross beneath. The typical spans leading up to that are designed to be 181 feet typical length. As Pete mentioned, throughout the city of Havre there are a number of short span undergrade bridges that'll be affected by the project from Lewis Lane to Lily Run Culvert and through the local city grid, Juniata Adams. Just to give you a sense of the size and scale of this project, we've got some quantities, some preliminary quantities for the type of work that'll be done. Over 60 million pounds of structural steel will go into this project, almost 30 million pounds of rebar, over 100,000 cubic yards of concrete, over 150,000 square feet of retaining walls, and over 15,000 feet of drilled shafts. And that kind of goes into the numbers you heard from Mr. Fordyce as far as jobs. It's a lot of work to get done to complete a project of this magnitude. I'm a little bit more into the structural design, kind of what brought us here. The bridges will be designed for a 100-year design life for all the structures. The new East Bridge will be rated for 160 miles an hour. The new West Bridge for 125 miles an hour. Amtrak is focusing on constructability when it comes to the design of these structures. Right, they first and foremost want to maintain safe and consistent track operations during construction, obviously after construction. While we're building this, we also want to minimize impacts to the local community, the roadways, properties, et cetera. We want to make sure it's constructible from the water, right? There's a long span over the river. It's got to be able to be built from the water. The image you see on the right here is the rendering for the navigation channel. It's a network tied arch structure. Has a lot of benefits. It had strong public support through the entire preliminary engineering and NEPA phase of the project. A lot of redundancy in the structural design, and it also helps us meet the navigational clearances without needing to swing like the existing bridge. It'll be a fixed bridge, it won't move. And then the approach spans leading up to the network tied arch will be typical plate girder spans, familiar to Amtrak maintenance crews for structural inspection and maintenance, and most importantly, they are compatible with the overhead catenary system in terms of spacing and span length. Moving down to street level, like I said, there's more to do on the project other than the bridge. There's lots of infrastructure in the city that we'll have to touch to get this project done. From Lewis Lane Bridge, which you see in the center inset there, the existing 3-span structure will be replaced with a new single-span structure to get the piers kind of out of the way and clear of the new tracks. At Seago Street and Union Avenue, the roadway that crosses beneath the tracks right at the abutment there will be realigned with improved geometry and improved view shed. The existing utility infrastructure, much of which will be relocated underground and improved, new stormwater infrastructure along the realigned roadway, and support of bike lanes in the shoulders. The other local city streets, Juniata, Adams, Warren, Stoke Streets with bridges over them, those bridges will be replaced with new plate girder structures that carry the new track alignments, and access beneath those structures during construction will be needed for utilities and construction of the railroad bridges themselves. Here's a sneak peek at some of the detour routes that we'll utilize for some of the construction. And the key point here is there's not a lot of routes over and around the tracks, right? So we need to make sure we coordinate and phase those so as to minimize impacts to the driving community. So the route you see on the left would be for any closures along Otsego or Union Avenue when we have large equipment occupying the roadway. It utilizes Route 40 and Post Road Revolution Street to detour traffic around that abutment. Lewis Lane would use a similar detour route when that bridge is closed. These two operations wouldn't take place at the same time, and that's kind of the same formula we'll use for any roadway impact. It'll be phased in an intelligent way to minimize impacts. Next, on the real estate side, Amtrak does have a fair amount of right-of-way here, but we do have some additional real estate needs to complete the project, especially in the temporary construction easement side of things to get materials and equipment in place for construction. The image you see here on the right shows a few city-owned properties along the shoreline there, much of which you completed your living shoreline project on. This is kind of the key area for construction access for the bridge. There are other locations throughout the city that will see real estate easements or acquisitions as part of the project, from the high school to the post office to American Legion Post 47. Much of it's temporary construction easements. Some of it will be right-of-way acquisition. A lot of outreach has been done to date. We started back in March for real estate outreach, and we've been following up with property owners along the way. Utilities is a big part of the project too. It's something that we're looking to get done as early as possible. We're coordinating with a number of utilities, upwards of 15 public utilities, including the city of Havre de Grace. We've had the good fortune of working with EJ and his team to talk through some of these impacts, and I think we've had a lot of productive conversations so far. We've learned a lot about the city water main upgrade project, the county water main that runs along the railroad corridor will be impacted as well. And there's some complex locations from a utility standpoint. From the Lewis Lane Bridge, which you see here on the slide, Juniata Street and Otsego Street all have significant utility relocations and work that'll need to be done to support the project. On the environmental side, the team's been hard at work updating our NEPA document, going through a reeval with the FRA last fall. We've also been working with Towson University to study a sensitive species, the northern map turtle that occupies the river. They've done several surveys, basking, nesting, hibernation site surveys, and those surveys will continue into the new year. The team has also completed the joint permit application and water quality certification as recently as December, and we're continuing with our Section 106 process as part of our programmatic agreement. You'll see Phase 1 archaeological reports kicking off, revised and reinitiation of our area of potential effect for the project, and our historic American building survey and historic American engineering record documentation is underway. And the noise monitoring also took place this past winter. Next, I'm going to hand it off to Jen for procurement.
Thanks, Kevin. My name is Jen Riegel. I'm the Principal Design Manager here at Amtrak for the project. And as Pete mentioned earlier, we've expanded the team recently to include the CMAR, which is the Construction Manager at Risk, and the PMCM team. So in December of 2023, We awarded the CMAR contract to the Flatiron Herzog joint venture. We also brought on our PMCM, which was awarded to the AECom-led team. And we also brought on our contractor for the remnant pier removal, which happens to be Fay Construction. As it was also mentioned, I think, by Pete earlier, work has begun on the remnant pier removal. The first thing that we're doing is actually putting up the netting to deter birds from nesting, so that we're not disturbing any wildlife as we remove the piers. That work started today. You'll see some barges out on the river. There should probably be about 2 barges at most. Very small, it's just a man lift that's out on the barge, very minimal noise to actually put the anchors into the existing piers, and some smaller boats that'll transport the workforce out there from the marina. So we're also, as part of our environmental review and activity, we're investigating ways to honor the history and the cultural impacts that those piers have had here to Havre de Grace. And we will provide updates as we uncover what we can do with those to either salvage or add some signage about it. As far as future procurements for the project, the CMAR will actually be presenting or advertising contracts for the construction team, so the various parts of construction on the project. You know, as Kevin said, to install all the concrete, the rebar, the steel, that sort of thing. And those will be advertised in the future. Oh, and the last thing, there is a QR code up there right now, but our remnant pier, we have a fact sheet about the remnant piers, and it's actually on our project website. As far as future meetings, we still have a lot of coordination to finish as we finalize our design and get into construction. One of our next steps is to go over the aesthetics, which also include the landscaping of the bridge, the retaining walls, everything, including the approaches and the smaller structures. We still have to finish our environmental coordination and real estate, which again, Kevin kind of mentioned on. And we're starting our construction sequencing with the CMAR as well. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Denise Miller, who will talk about outreach.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Denise Miller, and I'm with Amtrak, our Office of Community Engagement. And first and foremost, I want to say that we understand that this is going to be a long process, and we are disrupting the lives of the community. So our job is to do whatever we can to communicate what's happening before, when it's happening, what to expect, and what's coming next. So we're hoping to do that together, and what you see on your screen right here, actually, there you go. What you see on the screen right here are meetings that we've already had. We also have a mechanism in place to keep the community informed. So we have a project website, we have a distribution list, and actually I'm going to pass it to Mr. Ford right here if you'd like to sign up. So for instance, we talked about the work that just began today. We actually, for people that are on our newsletter, we emailed them this morning before 9 o'clock to say, this is what's happening today. So we really highly recommend to sign up for our newsletter because that's like as it's happening. We also have a 1-800 number. We have an email address for our project. So there's lots of ways to get hold of us. But what I'm hoping to do, we did it in December, and moving forward is we want to get involved with the community. It's really important for Amtrak to meet our community where you are. And this lovely picture on the screen demonstrates our first in-person engagement activity with your city, which was your Holly Jolly. So look for us over the next couple of years to be supporting and be at events to have conversations. Presentations are nice, but we really want to get to know you and to be working side by side, because as we said before, we're stuck with each other, right? Like, here we are for the next 10 or so years. So we don't know what you all know. So we want you to think about, here's my email address is on the slide. I say to people, email me directly and tell me what's happening. We ran into somebody at your firehouse today, like when's the next firehouse event happening that we can have a table and hand out some swag and talk to your residents. So we want to hear from you. We want to get your feedback on what's happening. We want, if you hear something that we just heard something today that a miscommunication was happening. So we want to get in front of that before it spreads throughout the community. And we're here to direct people to get the right information. But while we're doing that, we're here to build relationships and work through this together. So thank you for your time tonight. And again, you're stuck with us, so this is not the first time that you're going to see us. All right, so Dexter's going to answer some questions now.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Happy to answer any question that the resident may have or the council member.
I'll tell you what, if you wouldn't mind taking questions from the floor, any citizens have questions? I know some people came here tonight to watch.
Yes, sir. I sit on the board of the Susquehanna Workforce Network. We do the federal job training workforce funds for Hartford and Cecil County. And I'm not sure if our staff is fully engaged in the project, but we have job fairs, job training credentials, and we work with the labor market here. I will probably pester Ms. Denise in her email and send her our stuff. I need to check with our staff to see if they've got ongoing relationships, but I saw the number of jobs there and my eyes lit up, so thank you, but I'll be in touch.
Yeah, workforce development is huge for us, so we would love to be out in your community.
My name is Don.
I'm going to give you my card.
Thank you for directing
Thank
the
you.
question to Dennis. Any other question?
Thank you. Any questions from council members? We'll start with Councilmember Schneegis.
Good evening, and thank you for coming out tonight. I was curious if you, by chance, would have a model available for children to be able to visit, let's say perhaps at our Welcome Center or somewhere strategically located in our city for kids to get involved with their families.
We don't currently have a model available, but it's something that we're going to be working with. We do have some rendering and video that we would like to update and present to the and present at the different events in the future. But definitely we work towards having a model to get the children excited. It's one of the things that we have discussed as a project. It's really particular to schools, right? And look at the different activities that we could get involved with. So that's definitely something. I'm going to put the model on my list.
Great, thank you.
We have activity coloring books too. That
Oh.
we give to,
Yeah, we have the rendering.
Sounds like you're off to a great start.
Councilmember Boyer.
Thank you. I want to thank you all for coming out here and engaging with the community and sponsoring the horse-drawn carriages. That was just absolutely lovely and a great start to a long relationship that we're going to be having with you all. So I'm on street and traffic safety, and we have a couple of issues that come up time to time, and if you could please address them on what your plans, or maybe say you're going to come back and maybe come to street and traffic safety to talk about them. One of the items that we have been noting for the past couple of years is that there seems to be mainly students who are using the tracks as a cut-through. And at no place have we said that this is an okay thing to do, and I'm sure on your side as well. What are you planning to do as far as to make sure that that's cut off, or are there things that you can do in the construction process to make it so that is less probable?
Absolutely. I'm going to start off and then I'll hand it over to Kevin. Safety is our number one concern, especially for the residents of Havre de Grace and the other side of the bridge, Perryville. And we absolutely have to protect the public. And it's something that we discussed previously because it was brought to our attention, and it's something that we're definitely going to address during the construction phase. Kevin, anything you want to add?
Yeah, so like Dexter said, safety is key.
Or go up to the mic so the people at home can hear it too.
So this project will definitely have safety measures in place for pedestrians, for motorists, for the train, right? But even alongside that, Amtrak has a pretty robust safety and security project all along the Northeast Corridor that's active right now, looking to replace and upgrade and improve fencing along the corridor to keep, stuff for the rail systems in and everyone else out for their own safety.
Right.
And to answer your first question, I'd love to come and present at a traffic safety meeting, if you think that'd be beneficial.
That would be extremely helpful, and I'll connect Denise to our chairperson to try to organize a time for you to come speak to them. It is something that the cut-through, especially after the high school was built, is just something that we see keeps popping up left and right. And it came to us by a concerned member of the community saying, hey, I keep seeing these kids cutting across, and that's how we started investigating on that.
Yeah, no,
And I know that through DPW that we've been communicating with you in the past in regards to that. So the next question is, so when you moved to Havre, Grace, one of the first things that you tell yourself is, I don't know if I'm going to get used to that train sound. But then probably, I would say a week and a half, 2 weeks in, you're like, oh, that is such a great sound. So how is the sound going to change? Not that we're complaining that you're taking the sound away, but will it be similar, less? What is the change?
Yeah, I could take this one. Yeah. You know, as far as the noise, it's going to be less. The open deck bridge that we have right now over the river is going to be replaced with what's called a ballast bridge. That's more typical, where you actually have a tub with rocks, with ballast in it. And that'll absorb the noise. Plus, with the reconstruction of the railroad through Havre de Grace, that's going to improve the geometry of the tracks, so it'll be a smoother ride. Smoother ride means less noise. So overall, it'll be beneficial. You know, we'll make sure they're still blowing their horns if that's what you like. But yeah, as far as the actual, wheels on the tracks, that'll be quieter.
Okay, great. I have one last question. So throughout Havre de Grace, where the smaller bridges are, they're just iconic sized blocks of stone. I'm assuming they came from the quarry. I can't imagine them taking them much farther because they're enormous. What is your plan to do? What is your plan for those blocks? Are you planning to use them in the replacement of the bridges, or are they going to be going to, what is your plan? I hope they're not going to landfills.
So some of the location we're going to be reusing the existing structures. In others, we definitely are open for look for opportunities, working with our Havre de Grace to use on projects that you may just want to able to retain some of that history. And we have basically we'd welcome the opportunity to listen to any opportunities you have that we could salvage some of those historic bricks and help you to reuse it on future projects.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. When you think about that the bridge was built over 100 years ago, how they were able just to easily move them in the way, and that they've been able to withstand the test of time and the test of weight, the amount of weight that goes on over them is just unbelievable. And they were put together pretty strongly, so it's probably going to be interesting taking it apart.
It is, and I'm very happy for the technology we have today.
Right. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Booker.
No, thank you. So I'll be succinct. I've got three things, and the number one was I saw on the first of all, thanks for the presentation. I saw one thing on there was the bike lanes. So in my lifetime, I'll be able to ride my bike across the river, right? Is that north-south? Okay, good. I saw that, and I know the viewing audience out there at large has seen that as well. Avid bicyclist. With that being said, the second brings up my second point. We are a city that puts on many events, and if you've seen the agenda tonight, you see that we're voting on several events that are going to take place, the Susquehanna Seafood Festival and so on and so forth. So there's quite a few events. And so I would imagine that Denise will be relatively busy trying to, coordinate with us as far as, the DPW police force and so forth, as we conduct our events. At the same time, we have this going on. I mean, the statistics are, which you've already checked. I'm sure you've already been to City Hall and you've actually found out how many people that these events actually draw. Right? There's quite a few. So it's just, that's just my second point, right? I think that I think that probably covers it. Yeah, I think that's probably about it for now. And I know this is the initial blast. I've got several more, but I think I'll yield my time for a future meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and Denny's going to be very busy.
I think you will too, my friend.
Thank you, Councilmember Boger. Councilmember Jones.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for the presentation tonight. Gave us some great insight into what's coming in the future. One thing that I did want to recognize was the mention of historic considerations. And I just wanted to thank you for making sure that was out there. That has been a concern with several residents. I'm the chair of our, not the chair, the council liaison for the Historic Preservation Commission, and I know that that's something that we will probably talk more about and would also love for someone to come speak. I will speak to the chair to see if that's something where they'd like someone to come speak as well. So thank you.
Absolutely.
So, thank you. Before I let you go, no questions, but comment. For many years, people would often ask me what is the most important thing city government does. Often, one of my famous one-liners, I joke and quip metaphorically, I say, our job is to make sure the trains run on time. So now I'm talking to people whose job is to make the trains run on time. So I can definitely have empathy for what you're about to do. I just want to say that we're ready for you. My administration's been prepared for this for years. It's not the first time that City of Havre de Grace has been in the crosshairs of major federal funding. Any Havre de Grace historians in the audience, and I know there's some, knows that in the 1830s, when the Susquehanna Tidewater Canal was built, that was the most expensive federally funded project up to date, going all the way up to Wrightsville, Pennsylvania, almost 40 miles. Of course, all the bridges came. We've had multiple bridges span the Susquehanna River. There's the remnants of an old river, double-decker bridge, that I know will be dismantled this year. And so again, the City of Havre de Grace is resilient. We're used to these projects. We understand that our river view and our ease of access to downtown from time to time might be obstructed, but my citizens are ready for it. We can handle it. And this administration looks forward to working with Amtrak. We really appreciate the open line of communication. So on behalf of my citizens, I can only ask, just keep the information coming for us. The more me and my citizens know, the more prepared we are to handle this. And we look forward to seeing beautiful engineering, beautiful architecture, one day grace the river, between us and Perryville. So thank you all for coming. Team Amtrak, we appreciate it. Thanks for working with us. And unless you have anything else, sir?
No, and I appreciate it. I'd like to thank you all for all your support. I know that our team going to be working very closely together going forward. So thank you for all your support in advance.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Not a problem. Have a good evening, everybody.
Nice work, guys. Very nice. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Good work. I will pass you. So much.
That was the popular topic.
Okay. Okay, we're going to go to item number B, which is the Marina Commission report presented to you this evening by Councilmember Shanegas.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council, citizens in the audience. I am here today on behalf of the Marina Commission to present our recommendations for fiscal year '25. As required by City Code, we will be focusing on our strategic direction of this enterprise fund, capital projects and rate structure coordination, budgeting considerations and timing of implementation, establish and monitor the operational goals and objectives, and rates and charges. So, going on to strategic direction, Section 25, Article 12. The last report was made on February 6th in 2023. Replenishing the depleted reserves. The reserves were replenished by 165,400, which is a 46% increase by the end of fiscal 2023. We're heading in a good direction and hope to be at that same or higher rate at end of fiscal year 2024. We will be seeking grant opportunities. We will be applying for a $45,000 grant for redecking Pier 3 in 2024. Our rate structure coordination. The price increased for annual slip fees from $67 to $70 a foot for fiscal year 25. The increase is intended to cover the operating and maintenance costs for the marina without depleting the enterprise reserves. And this was voted in and amended in the entirety in February 21, 23 by ordinance number 1091. Capital projects. Our future capital projects, our parking lot resurfacing is a goal, electric sub-meters, launch kiosks at Water Street and the Yacht Basin, movable stairs, and bulkhead replacement. Budgeting considerations and timing of implementation, operating and forecasted expenses for our marina, removable stairs for the fuel dock office, abandoned boat removal, bulkhead deterioration in the southeast corner, graffiti removal, replacement of dock boxes, marina office flooring, kayak ramp, DMP site engineering, fuel dock enhancements, sunshade for the gas pump dock, and that will be all. Thank you for your time and attention.
Councilmember Shanegas, thank you very much for the update, the annual update on the Marina Commission. So I'm going to open up the floor if any council members have any questions for clarity about your report. Councilmember Jones?
Thank you for that wonderful report, Councilmember Shanegas. Just one question. Do you know how our slip fee compares to other marinas in the county?
We only looked at Havre de Grace, the private marinas, and we're pretty comparable. So we've looked at it 2 years back when we were deciding what direction we were going in for, increasing our revenue. And we are on the lower end. We do well, and I think it's fair and equitable considering all that we supply for our slip holders and the community.
Thank you. I keep hearing that Havre de Grace is higher, and so that's great to know that it's comparable.
We're actually, I think,
Lower.
cheapest
Really?
marina in town, by far.
I think it's a perception that,
By
you know,
far.
so.
Well,
Yeah.
I could say that there's privately owned marinas that might have a different rate fee, so people might be, mentioning those, in respect to Havre de Grace, but our marina is designed for the people, to keep people coming in and wanting to stay and boat here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Council President?
Do we have a timeline for the kiosk for the boat launches?
I will defer that question to EJ Elizer, our DPW director.
Requested in the budget, so hopefully for your viewing pleasure soon.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'm sorry, Councilmember Boyer.
I know later on in our agenda for today, we'll be going over the fees. Part of one of the fee changes that I read was that we'll be offering a senior yearly fee. Did you all consider that and have any feedback?
We have not considered that. We have our fees already established, but that is something to look at into the future, so.
Okay, we're going to be talking about it tonight
Okay,
in the fee structure. It's in that, right?
okay. Well, I'm talking about specifically for the marina. This one, we have not talked about it,
Okay,
so.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Shenanigans, thank you so much. Appreciate the report. We're going to go to item C, presentation on short-term rental property report. Mr. Tim Borsier, Director of Planning, good evening.
Good evening, everybody. As some of you remember, when we passed this law last year, we set a zone where we would allow short-term rentals to be licensed, and then we set the number of licenses at 60, and the plan was for me to provide you all an annual report to discuss the number of licenses and that sort of thing in case we needed to make some adjustments or adjustments to the boundary map or adjustments to the number of licenses that are available. I've given you guys all a couple handouts. So the first one is a map that has a bunch of red squares and orange triangles on it. You can mostly never mind what those mean, but if you notice, all of them are concentrated east of Juniata. There's one that's on Revolution that has been there for some time. And then there's all the way one up in northwest corner on Golden Eye Court. That just hasn't been removed as active yet, but nobody's actually in that location. So we've done since we've instituted this law, we've been able to really concentrate everything into the downtown area like we wanted to. So I think that's good. If you go to the next page, you have a couple graphs. The top two are just kind of informational. So it just shows that 56.1% of short-term rentals in town are people renting out rooms in their home versus just under 44% of people renting out their entire home. And then 77% of those are single family with almost 23% being multifamily. If you look at the bottom, there's just a graph that shows over time short-term rentals in the city. So when they first started tracking in February of 2022, we had 35 short-term rentals. That's the most that we've ever had. And we had 34 in the week of August 14th of 23. Then we had as low as 19, you can see in the span down there from October of 22 to the end of January 23, and another low point on the week of June 5th, 23. And all the way on the right, you can see currently we have 26 short-term rentals. And that's stayed under 30 now for some period of time. So that's basically the long and short of it. We do have the host compliance software. That's where the map and the graphs come from. That has been helpful. There were people outside of the short-term rental area that we sent letters to right away, letting them know that they were outside of the area. And they were cooperative and removed those listings. So that's why everything is concentrated downtown now. We have online permitting software that I thought would be much further along. These things are done from scratch from software developers, and we're not the only customer. We're not paying for that software until it's implemented and we're trained and it's running, so the city hasn't spent a dime yet. Not that you need one, but if there's another reason that you should like Jolene Forrester, she's agreed to be our guinea pig with that program, so we've been back and forth with her on an application to try to get everything tweaked and working correctly. There's just little things of like, we didn't have a certain permission for something, so there was a form that she attached, didn't get sent over. We contact the software company. We set up a time. They give me a permission. The file pops up. I send the information back to Jolene. So hopefully we get all that sorted out before it goes public. But regardless of the licensing, it's already worked in the sense that we've been able to sort of put everything into the downtown area where we wanted it. And we're way below the 60 licenses that are allowed under the ordinance. So I don't believe there needs to be any changes. We haven't received, I mean, there's a few people we've received questions from outside of the short-term rental district that were interested, but I can't say that we've gotten a lot of pressure from that. If anything, if there was a consideration, maybe reducing that 60 number to something lower, just because we've seen that, basically the variance is between 19 and 35, but usually sits right around the 30 range. So if there were, 40 or 45 licenses that were allowed, that would still give enough room for growth. But I don't know necessarily that any action needs to take place. I have a meeting this week with the software people again to make some additional tweaks, and I'm hoping here in the next couple months we can get everything online and get the information out. One other good thing about the host compliance software is in this year's budget, we thought we were going to have to do this mass mailing around town telling everybody, hey, if you have a short-term rental, you have to register with us, you have to get a license. We now identify everybody who has a short-term license, and it gives me all their addresses, gives me all the SDAT information. So we went from having to email, 5,000 to 6,000 households to being able to really get it down to 30. So it was a really good investment just in that regard. I'll take any questions if you have them.
Thank you very much, Tim. Councilmember Boyer?
Okay, help me understand this bottom part again.
Yeah.
Okay, the brown total listings, that's total listings found on from the software?
Yeah, so short-term rental is defined in our law as being 30 days or less. But you can rent for 30 days or more on Airbnb. So it catches everything in the city limits.
Okay.
That's on Airbnb or VRBO.
The top line is everything that's on online forums that's available for rent.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, and that number now is 44. So there's an additional 18 long-term rentals that are using short-term rental platforms.
Got it. And the blue then is the ones that would conform to what we're categorizing as short-term rentals.
The 30 days or less, that's right.
And that's 26.
26 as of today, yep. And it's been that way for a month now, 4 weeks.
Okay. So can you explain, why did it go down? What was is it because somebody rented for that same property for a 3-month period, so therefore it doesn't count?
No, I think what happens is, people in the summer, maybe they want a little bit of extra money. They have a spare room in their house.
Okay.
They rent it out. Winter comes and they decide they're sick of guests and they just deactivate it. And then maybe they'll come back on. So I think you sort of see those fluctuations. So in the down months, it tends to be between October and January. And then you see the spikes. Most of the spikes, let's say, happen from like spring and summer. Right. So just, I think people being advantageous of the tourist season.
Okay. So for my day job, I work in HR at Aberdeen Proving Ground, and I do a lot of work with our interns. And one of the biggest problems that we have is, we literally go across the country recruiting students to work at Aberdeen Proving Ground, and then they're like, where do I live? So would it even be possible for us to contact the city to get to a list of the short-term rentals when we put the software in place?
I can get that to you now. I could get that to you today. Anything you see on that map that has a red square has been identified, and I can provide a list of addresses and information from the State Department and Taxation website.
Okay. That's just a really great resource, and I'll let the rest of the HR community know about that as well.
Okay.
And are we the only municipality at this time in Harford County that is using that software?
I believe we're the only ones using that software. I received inquiries from the planning director in Bel Air about our short-term rental law. I don't know whether they've instituted it. I think they had an election recently, so I don't know that they were doing much legislatively, but it is something that they're looking at.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Councilmember Booker?
Just real quick. So first of all, this software pulls in data from SDAT, which I think is amazing. That's a great tool. I'm glad we made the investment. And I'm kind of curious too, after hearing Amtrak, all these people coming in for employment, for work, and with your head nod, I'm sure you've already doing the planning for that flux of personnel, right?
Yeah. I would say outside of the short-term rental ordinance, if anyone here is really interested in housing, we just completed the housing element for the comprehensive plan that's on the Envision Havre de Grace website. The data's a little bit hard to find for the city, but if you look at the county or even the region, there's a shortage of housing. The state said there's I think a shortage of 96,000. I'm not sure where they came with that number from. But there is a definite shortage in town, and what's available is, it tends to be a little bit more on the expensive end, so people tend to be housing burdened in the city. So it's a difficult time.
No, and I appreciate that, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions? Tim, thank you very much for your
You're welcome.
report. Appreciate it. And finally, our last presentation this evening. It's going to be a presentation regarding Senate Bill 484 and House Bill 538 on land use, and this will be presented by my senior aide, Mr. Adam Rutsinski. And this is something that everybody should pay attention to. Go ahead.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm here to speak with you about the Housing Expansion and Affordability Act of 2024. And this evening, the mayor's office will also be seeking your consideration on adopting a resolution of opposition to this bill. So, the Housing Expansion and Affordability Act of 2024 seeks to make two changes to the state's land use article under Title IV, Zoning, and Title VII, Other Development Management Tools. Under Section 4, it adds to the following limitations on a local government. It would prohibit a local government from prohibiting the placement of a new manufactured home in a zone that allows single-family residential use if the home meets the definition of manufactured home or will be converted to real property. This bill also basically reiterates the definition of adequate public facilities, which is we're all familiar with, but it speaks to the planning, staging, or provision of adequate public facilities as authorized. So getting into the meat and potatoes here, under Title VII, what this bill is seeking to do is create 3 new types of qualified projects. So it creates subtitle 502, property formerly owned by the state. Then 503, which we're less concerned about, is property within 1 mile of a rail station. And then section 504, land owned by a nonprofit organization. And I will address item 1 and 3 in the next few slides. So addressing 502, property that used to be owned by the state, there's 6 items here that need to be achieved in order to qualify for this type of project, and it needs to be new construction or a significant renovation. So the first one being the property had to be owned by the state in the past, consists of more than one building, includes one building that was built more than 50 years before the date of the application, is appropriate for redevelopment as determined by the Secretary of Housing. Item 5 consists at least 50% of units that are affordable. So to follow up on that, that means households earning 60% or less of the area of median income. Then item 6 is deed restricted to include 50% of units that are affordable dwelling units for a period of at least 40 years. Oh, sorry. All right, so if a project can meet all 6 items mentioned, then the local government shall not allow the project to exceed the density authorized in a district or zone. In an area zoned exclusively for single-family residential use, a qualified project may include middle housing units. Now you may ask, what is a middle housing unit? A middle housing unit is duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, cottage clusters, and townhomes. If the project is in an area zoned exclusively for multifamily residents, then the project shall have a density limit that exceeds by 30% the allowable density in that zone for uses that are not part of the qualified project. Sorry. It's catching up. If the project is in an area zoned exclusively for non-residential use, then a project may consist of mixed-use development. Density cannot exceed the maximum set by local government in the situation. If the project is in an area zoned for mixed use, then a project may include 30% more housing units than allowed in the city's most dense zoning district. My apologies. So now let's move over to new subtitle 504. If passed, this would create a framework for land owned by a nonprofit organization. So there's 4 items that must be met here. 1, it must be new construction or a major renovation. 2, land including land subject to a ground lease, wholly owned by a nonprofit, or B, includes improvements owned by entity that is controlled by a nonprofit. Has to contain at least 50% of units that are affordable dwelling units. Again, the household income needs to be 60% or less of the area median income. And then item 4 is deed restricted to include 50% of units that are affordable dwelling units for a period of at least 40 years. So if a project can meet all four items, then the following is applicable. The first being, if the project is in an area zoned exclusively for single-family housing, then the project may include middle housing units, which we just discussed. If the project is in an area zoned exclusively for multifamily residents, then the project shall have a density limit that exceeds by 30% the allowable density in that zone for uses that are not part of the qualified project and may include mixed use. If the project is in an area zoned exclusively for non-residential use, then a project may consist of mixed-use development. Density cannot exceed the maximum set by local government. All right, so a few general provisions which would be applicable to the 2 qualified projects we just discussed. First, local government may not impose any unreasonable limitations or requirements, including height, setback, bulk, parking, loading, dimensional, or area, or similar requirements. And then except as otherwise provided, the local government may not require that a qualified project under the subtitle be reviewed at more than 1 public hearing before each of the following: the City Council, the Planning Commission, the Historic District Commission, or Historic Preservation Commission, and the Board of Appeals. There's another area established under here, which is likely globally applicable to the projects mentioned and other types of projects. So that would be state funding affordable housing projects. These are residential projects that are funded under federal code at 26, and then Title 4, Subtitle 2, and 4 of the Housing and Community Development article. It's basically subsidized housing. In these cases, the local government may not use an element of APF to deny the permit or restrict or limit the project if it would impact the viability of the project, affordability, or density of the project. And that's all I have for you.
Adam, thank you very much. So again, this is a proposed bill in Annapolis. And I can tell you right now, usually when bills like this get written, they already have something in mind. This just isn't a generic thing they pulled out. So, so where is Annapolis at right now with this bill? Have they had a committee hearing yet on it?
So as right now, it's been assigned. It's introduced in both chambers. In the Senate, it's been assigned to the E3 committee, which is Education, Environment, and last one slipping me. And then on the House side, it's been assigned to Environment and Transportation. In the Senate side, the hearing will be in this month on the 21st. On the House side, it will be on the 20th.
Where did this bill originate from?
The governor's office.
Governor's office, but it picked up a sponsor from the House and the Senate, right?
Yes, many.
Okay. So this came from the governor's office. So if you want me to spell this out for you, this is written for the hospital. I mean, it's almost as if they took our zoning law and they saw everything that we won't allow and just went like this. If this bill passes, then whoever wants to develop that hospital has a blank card to develop high-density housing, and you saw it right there. The city can't restrict height. They preempt our parking, everything. So I just want everybody to understand what's going on in Annapolis right now. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I would say I think it's just important to know. I know we're focused on downtown, but the hospital property up on the hill would also be subject to this. So we, we had stated in the past that that was not a place that we were expecting to have any more residential, regardless of whether it was affordable housing or not. That whole commercial piece would go away. And they could build up to the highest density or 30% above the highest density of the most dense zoning district in town. Gets you to about 20 units per acre from a place where we were done with building residential and wanted commercial and services on that property. So, I mean, it affects both.
Thank you. So again, I mean, I just want everybody to mull this over for a second because we're Havre de Grace citizens. We pay Havre de Grace taxes. We elect our local citizens. Our citizens get involved with our zoning laws because our zoning laws reflect the community we want to have and how we want to grow it and at what pace and what rate and where we allow things to take place. The hospital right now, property is zoned to be a hospital. It can be zoned for other things, but high-density apartments or housing isn't one of them for a multitude of reasons. It's mostly adequate public facilities, parking, a variety of things. But like I said, you know, we have laws that the people you elected enacted, you know, obviously with your consent. But the state right now can pass this bill and it completely trumps all of our laws. And they can do whatever they want with our city. I just want everybody to understand that this is in the works right now in Annapolis. Now, does this mean that it's 100% absolute? I don't know. I mean, somebody could come in tomorrow and just open it back up and make it another hospital. I don't know, but it opens up the possibilities. Because we have had several developers reach out to Upper Chesapeake and then reach out to us because they wanted to put 750 apartment homes on that property. And of course, the city, we don't have an appetite for that. It just won't fit. It's not the right use for that. I mean, could you imagine the traffic 7 o'clock in the morning at the intersection of Revolution and Union Avenue with over 1,000 cars trying to go to work? I mean, that's why we have zoning laws. There's places for high density like that. But, you know, obviously, if they get their way, there's, you know, they can come and do what they want. So I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just trying to educate the public. We found out about this the other week. You know, we were down in, your council members were down in Annapolis on Wednesday night. They call it Havre night in Annapolis. We were down at the Lord Calvert Hotel where we go when we meet our elected officials. And some of them were acting like this is just house cleaning. Oh, this is just house cleaning ordinance. So we all know they got their marching orders. You know, and if you want to battle University of Maryland, I can tell you how that went for us from 2016 to 2020 when we were fighting the closure of the hospital. If there's one thing that reigns supreme in Annapolis, it's anything that has to do with the University of Maryland. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican. University of Maryland calls the shots down in Annapolis. We learned that in the city of Havre de Grace. And we fought that battle pretty hard. So we'll oppose this legislation. You know, and we'll voice it, and I mean, hopefully, citizens watching this at home will look up Senate Bill 484 and Bill 538, and then hopefully contact your delegates. You know, write a letter to oppose it. But again, they'll tell you this could be any building in the state of Maryland, but it's pretty much fits to a T, Havre de Grace, and the future use of that hospital. So I'm just being very blunt right now. So again, any council members have any comments? Council President?
Yeah, the mayor said it very well. This is an egregious overstep by our state government to take away the autonomy of the city. I think we do pretty good at planning here in the city, making sure that people can build and things, you know, they look like they belong in Havre, and that's why we want to keep it. A couple other concerning things is, let's say that they decide to put in a bunch of affordable housing in there and have it as a co-op or a affordable housing unit, sort of like we have affordable housing here in Havre already. But because that's a nonprofit and they hold the property, and if they were to hold the land for land rent, we wouldn't get the taxes off that either. So we would have all those extra citizens not paying the ground rent, not paying the taxes on the ground. We don't have the water to give to them. We don't have the police infrastructure. We don't have the school capacity. But we have people in Annapolis who think they can just run roughshod over us and get what they want. Delegate Hornberger across the river, he co-sponsored it. I'm very disappointed in that. I did talk to Steve and Andre Johnson. They're both opposed to that. Talked to Jason Gallion. He's opposed. Mike Griffith is opposed. Couldn't nail down Mary Delaney James. But we do have some support, and we have some people we got to work on. So make some phone calls. Write letters. This is horrible. We couldn't even get Maryland Municipal League to back us on this. They voted to be in favor of it so they can offer amendments. But still, they should have come out a little bit more strong. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us. Anybody from outside of Havre de Grace, talk to your local representatives too. We need Aberdeen and Bel Air on our side with this. We need Perryville. We need everybody. So we've got to fight it together. It's not just us. We feel that this was written for us. But you look around, all the different cities, the different municipalities, how much land was at one time, any time, owned by the state? Every single municipality in this state has property in their town that was at one time owned by the state. And that's disgusting to say that no, you can't control that anymore. You don't get autonomy over your own city limits. Whose idiotic idea was this? It's disgusting, and I yield, sir. Thank you.
One of the things, and I'll call upon the council again, but one thing that a couple of the developers in the past year have looked at the hospital for redevelopment. Keep in mind, the hospital property envelops probably close to 9 acres of land total. And with the hospital leaving, and they're leaving as we speak, tomorrow they're closed, February 6th. With the hospital leaving, it's going to leave a big plant there, the big building, multiple buildings on the property. And if somebody, let's say, for example, you know, perhaps it would be great to put single-family homes. I'm just making that up. Single-family homes on that land, or maybe a mixture of single-family homes or some townhomes and maybe a mixed retail or something. By the time you tear down the demo of the hospital, that's going to be $4 million. So the reason why developer after developer wants to put high-density apartments there is because that's the only way they're going to make their money back after they demo the hospital. So we have been soliciting our elected officials and, you know, asking Upper Chesapeake to request, since they're part of the University of Maryland system, some kind of funding from the state in the form of a grant or a loan or anything to help assist in the tearing down of the hospital, should that be the route somebody wants to take and not keep the healthcare facility there. We figure if the money was granted to demo the hospital, then whatever the future development of that property would be, the cost of that $4 million wouldn't be there, and the product that they could put on the land would be more suitable for historic downtown. Because our position in Havre de Grace is we were the first hospital in Hartford County. Everybody knows the history going back over 100 years. That land has been there forever, part of the hospital. It was you know, the city gave that land, became a hospital. All we're asking the University of Maryland is to make our city whole again. If you're going to leave the hospital, go to Aberdeen, we were asking you to make us whole. It was a small community hospital, and then, you know, about 10, 12 years ago, University of Maryland, I like to use the word corporate raided Upper Chesapeake and took it over, and that's when they made plans to start shutting it down. So our feelings as a city is, okay, you took our hospital from the city, you actually took a hospital from Hartford County. And that's always everything what we've said. Everyone says Havre de Grace is losing a hospital. No, Havre de Grace is not losing a hospital. Harford County is losing a hospital. We only have one now. I want to make that clear. Aberdeen's a big emergency room. Harford County lost a hospital. So if the hospital is going to shut down, then we're asking University of Maryland to help make our city whole again. If necessary, then help us tear down that plant. What's being proposed in Annapolis would pretty much, as Council President said, preempt all of our zoning laws. Years and years and years of planning commission and council actions to kind of, focus on what the needs of certain zoning are for our downtown that best fit. So hopefully, this won't pass. Perhaps if it does pass, maybe it won't come to fruition. Maybe something else will happen. But I just want everybody to know, because this is just typical politics in Annapolis. So I want everybody to be aware of it. We'll follow it. We'll keep you posted. We'll report back on it from the council meetings if you don't know what's going on. So anybody else want to say anything? Okay, fair enough.
Mayor, may I?
Yeah.
Too, the ordinance or the resolution before you is not a resolution in opposition to housing. It's a resolution in opposition to the legislation we discussed. Just want to clarify that.
Thank you. Yes.
And to that point, Havre de Grace has time and time again gone above and beyond to not only provide property through Habitat for Humanity, and we've given them property time and time again for affordable housing. We've worked with the Blenheim people on Route 40 to try to make sure that we could have. So I believe our city has stepped up time and time again to make sure that we have affordable housing to the best of our ability, staying within the adequate public facilities laws. Correct?
Correct. We are best practice.
So again, this is, I can't say anything other than it's almost like a slap in the face of people who think they know better than us on how we can take care of our own community. And I chose to live in a small town for small town values, to make sure that we have enough seats in our schools for our kids, that we have enough parking on our streets so that everybody can park without any problems, so that we don't have to stand in or sit in line waiting for a traffic signal to go multiple times, that we have enough fire and police in order to take care of what we need. And I just can't see how this is not a slap in our face. Thank you.
Thank you. Council President.
Adam, can I get you to repeat what you just said, those last words? The state pointed this out as the best practices.
A best practice.
A best practice. Housing. They said what we're doing is exactly how everybody else should be doing it. So just so we had that straight. They said that they told us we had to have the Adequate Public Facilities Act. We passed it. We have the best practices. We do everything we can. They point us out as a shining star, and this is what we get. So thank you.
Thank you, Adam. We're going to go to item 11, resolutions. Calendar resolution concerning establishing a position of opposition on Senate Bill 484 and House Bill 538, and I'm going to hand that off to the Council President.
Mr. Mayor, Council, citizens, I move to introduce a calendar resolution concerning establishing a position of opposition to Senate Bill 484 and House Bill 538.
Second.
Council, I have a motion by the Council President, seconded by Councilmember Boyer. This is a motion to introduce a calendar resolution. All those in favor of the introduction say aye.
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 All opposed to the introduction say nay. Introduction of the resolution carries 5-0 in the affirmative. This is going to be calendar resolution 2024-02. 2024-02. A resolution by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, Maryland, pursuant to the local government article of the Annotated Code of Maryland and sections 33 and 34 of the City Charter, for establishing a position of opposition to Senate Bill 484 and House Bill 538, introduced in the 446th session of the Maryland General Assembly. Council, I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-02.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Boyer and seconded by Councilmember Shenagus. Questions or comments? Council will do a roll call vote on calendar resolution 2024-02. 02. Hold on one second. Council President.
Yes.
Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer.
Yes.
Councilmember Schneges.
Yes.
Councilmember Boger.
Yes.
By roll call, 5-0 in the affirmative. City Council calendar resolution concerning establishing a position of opposition of Senate Bill 484 and House Bill 538 is passed and adopted. Item B, calendar resolution, declaring certain personal property as surplus property, and I will hand that to the council president.
Mayor, citizens, council.
I move to introduce calendar resolution concerning declaring certain personal property as surplus property.
Council, I have a motion by the council president. I have a second. Second by Councilmember Boyer. This is a motion to introduce a calendar resolution. Questions or comments on the council, or questions or comments on the introduction? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to introduce resolution carries 5-0 in the affirmative. Okay, this is going to be known as Counter Resolution 2024-03. 2024-03. A resolution by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, Maryland, pursuant to the local government article of the annotated Code of Maryland and sections 33 and 34 of the city charter for the purpose of declaring certain personal property as surplus property and is no longer needed for a public purpose or public use. Council, have a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-03.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Boyer, seconded by the Council President. Questions or comments? Council President?
All right, so we've got a bunch of stuff, mostly out of DPW, right, that it's just lying around, trucks that are broken, don't work, stuff we can't fix. We got a bunch of stuff that was left over at the Star Center when the school left. So if anybody's looking for some band uniforms, you can put in a bid. And then it comes with the hats too, but it's pretty cool. We got all kinds of stuff on there, but there's trucks, there's a leaf loader, a signed message board that doesn't work. A couple other things, yellow zero-turn mower, pretty cool, but I want that Cushman. I think I might have to put a bid on that. But just a bunch of stuff, so this resolution allows us to surplus it so the city can recoup some costs and get it out of our hair.
Thank you, Council President. Councilmember Boyer?
So for the edification of the viewing public, what will the process be that they may bid on this?
Sure. So once it's approved and surplus by City Council, there'll be a public notification, and then I believe it's going to be sealed bids that the public can submit, and then the bids will be open through the standard bid process that we have, and we'll take the checks and deliver the merchandise.
So for the average Joe who's looking at this and says, I could really use either a zero-turn mower or 100 and some band uniforms, a sealed bid would just be their name and what they're willing to pay for it, and then they provide it. That's basically all they need.
Correct, yes. Just basic information and what they're willing to pay for it.
Okay,
yes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyer. Councilmember Jones?
And when does this become available for people to know about? And is it going to go up on the website? Is that how they find out about it? Or what?
I don't think we've determined the method quite yet on how we're going to notify the public, but we'll make sure they're adequately notified. I imagine the website's going to be a part of that, but there may be other types of notifications.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we're going to do a roll call vote on Counter Resolution 2024-03. Councilor Schneges?
Yes.
Councilmember Boger?
Yes.
Council President?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer?
Yes.
By roll call vote of 5-0 in the affirmative, City Council Calendar Resolution 2024-03 is approved and adopted. We're going to go to item 12, which is ordinance, also known as laws. And we have two ordinances this evening. We have a second reading and a first reading. So the second reading is going to be on the first one's going to be ordinance 1137. Councilmember Shenanigans.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, I move to introduce ordinance number 1137 concerning amending Chapter 20, Annexation Policy and Procedure in the second reading.
Thank you very much. Council, I have a motion by Councilmember Shenanigans. This is a motion to introduce an ordinance on second reading, ordinance 1137. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Second by Council President. Questions or comments on the introduction of ordinance 1137? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to introduce ordinance 1137 on second reading carries 5-0 in the affirmative. This is an ordinance by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, Maryland, adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 11E of the Maryland Constitution, the local government article of the annotated Code of Maryland, and sections 33 and 34 of the Havre de Grace City Charter to amend Chapter 20, Annexation Policy and Procedure. Council, I have a motion to adopt ordinance 1137 on second reading.
Second.
I have a motion by the Council President and seconded by Councilmember Shenanigans. Questions or comments? Councilmember Shenanigans.
I would like to let you know the purpose of this ordinance is to ensure the annexation procedures for petitions involving more than 10 acres or causing a potentially significant burden on municipal services. The requirements will be for person allowing this acreage to be a part of the burden on the municipal services and public facilities to have to take a 30-day period and have a community informational meeting to advise those living within the 100-foot radius of the area and have that meeting held to discuss the information that it would have, the impact it would have on the municipal services, etc. And the Department of Planning may require that the meeting be live streamed and recorded or subsequently transcribed. And the petition will be set out and review the meeting discussed in the subsections, and it shall incorporate any changes forwarded by the revised commission. Upon filing for the petition, the petitioner shall place $5,000 in escrow with the city to use for processing, review, and legal fees. The petitioner will receive invoices monthly for the amount of escrow used during the previous months. The petitioner shall contribute monthly to the escrow on the amount necessary to maintain the $5,000 minimum escrow balance. Payment to replenish the escrow balance shall be paid within 15 days of receiving the invoice. Any amounts remaining in the escrow upon completion of the annexation process will be returned to the petitioner. So this is the information that was amended and added to this ordinance, our annexation policy.
Thank you very much, Councilor Shenanigans. Any other questions or comments? Council, we're going to do a roll call vote on ordinance 1137. Councilmember Boyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Shenanigans?
Yes.
Councilmember Boger?
Yes.
Council President?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
By roll call vote of 5-0 in the affirmative, ordinance 1137 is adopted on second reading. Thank you. We're going to go to item B, an ordinance on first reading, and we're going to hand that off to Council President.
Mr. Mayor, Council, citizens all, I move to introduce ordinance concerning amending Chapter 70 fees for first reading.
Council, I have a motion by Council President. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Jones. This is a motion to introduce an ordinance on first reading. Questions or comments on the introduction of this ordinance? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to introduce ordinance carries 5-0 in the affirmative. Council, this will be known as Ordinance 1139. An ordinance by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 11E of the Maryland Constitution, the local government article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, and Sections 33 and 34 of the Havre de Grace City Charter to amend City Code 70, titled Fees, to update the definitions and general schedule of fees charged by the city for various permits, licenses, and other services thereunder. Council, do I have a motion to adopt Ordinance 1139 on first reading?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by the Council President, seconded by Councilmember Boker. Questions or comments? Council President?
So this is the real fun part about government, just doing all these fees and tell you how much more taxes you're going to pay. No, it's so. For instance, if we have our DPW guys come out to your house to do an inspection, we have a fee for that, for permits, stuff like that. For commercial, if the city come out and mark the water and sewer, charges to that. We're making some charges for like the community center to allow a blood drive once a month up there to use it for free. To allow the Decoy Museum to have the decoy show, stuff like that. But it also has other stuff on there, like if you don't shovel your sidewalk and we need to get involved, we need to recoup our costs for our employees. So it's all based on that within reason. So with that, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Council President. Councilmember Boker?
Just one additional. So I know my primary function up here is to protect the assets of Havre de Grace, right? And we really can't do it unless we pay our legal team consummate to what they are, to the levels of work that they do. Some of that work is actually, maybe even help protecting us from outside threats that come into our walls and try to otherwise deter or change how we treat our assets. So that's one of the fees that's actually in this here as well. So I'm definitely going to recommend approval on this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Boker. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Boyer?
Now, thank you very much. It looks like you guys went through and did a whole bunch of work based off of probably experiences that you've had as you're going through and realizing, well, it does or doesn't fit something. So can you give us a little bit of the backstory on a couple of them? I'm just going to go from the front to the back, starting with the dumpster.
Dumping fee?
No, well, to actually have the dumpster, we changed from 60 days to 14 days, plus 2 30-day extensions versus one, no. I'm going to get myself confused which way is which.
What section are you in?
This is page 3, line 25, 125. So being deleted is what's taken out. So we're taking out 60 days, replacing it with 14. We used to have 2 30-day extension. Now there's 1 14-day extension. So what's the backstory on that one?
Just people leaving out dumpsters for too long in the middle of the streets. I mean, there's no other reason for it. There was, people order dumpsters and they just decide not to move fast enough, or they'll be done with the dumpster, and they don't call the company to come pick it up, and it takes out a big parking spot in the middle of the street a lot of times, and then.
And this is specific to the street, or
Yeah.
could this be on city property?
On your personal property, you can have a dumpster without a permit.
However, in the city of Havre de Grace, a lot of people's side yards, front yards are on city property.
Right, in the street right away, that would all require a permit.
Okay, so, and I'm sorry, I have a personal experience with this. The dumpster was as far as could be put out of, but it still was partially on the city right-of-way. And I don't know if you know the history of building the house.
I heard a little, I
painful
think.
experience.
Uh-huh.
Which took a long time, that was completely out of my hand, and I went way beyond the 60 days. So are we saying that then somebody would have to have the dumpster completely removed and they could have it back? Like, what is, I see here that there is, due to extenuating circumstances, but what is going to be the grace being provided on that extending circumstances?
I mean, we do it on a case-by-case basis, a lot of this stuff. I mean, we just try to personalize these situations with our residents because, like you said, you had a specific situation with a contractor. We know some people run into that, but sometimes other people are just sort of negligent or moving slowly. So we put these kind of more stricter laws in, and then if someone comes forward and there's a serious issue, then we'll take it into consideration. Yeah, I mean, as a last resort, the last thing we do is write citations, which would be the way that we would enforce this. So it's really like that would be like a real last resort thing where we're contacting somebody, they're not answering us, we post the property, they don't respond to us, or, it's 4 months, 5 months, 6 months down the road, and there's just continued excuses, then we would, tell them, okay, now you're past time, you have to wrap it up.
And I kind of would assume that there would be a difference in the way it would be approached if it was literally in the street versus if it was out of the way of traffic and
Yeah,
stuff
of course.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
It makes that whole thing, that makes me a little nervous on that one. So the next one, just because of I can absolutely relate to people who it's completely out of your ability to deal with situations.
Mm-hmm.
Accessory dwelling unit, we didn't have that in there before, or now that we have the definition, now we need to put it in there?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we had it. If we had it before, and then sometimes people would bring in a new construction, and then it would have this accessory unit attached to it. And I don't think we were charging a fee for it, but a lot of these things require inspection from the county because we don't do our own building inspections in house. So sometimes we notice that we pay fees out for inspections, but we're not collecting money in. So a lot of these things just end up adjusting to end up paying for county services that we contract out.
So we had accessory dwelling units where people didn't have to pay the construction fee for it?
I just don't know that there was a separate building
We
fee.
didn't have a specific case that called this into question.
Right.
This is just to clarify.
Yeah, and we just, I think, in the less than 2 years I've been here, we passed the accessory dwelling unit ordinance, so it's fairly new.
Okay, the next one that I have on there is awning with and without signage. Do we not have that?
That one I'm not sure about, I'd have to check.
Page is that on, council member?
That's page 9.
Thank you.
It doesn't have a line. I would give you, it's under miscellaneous, third down, $75. It just seems weird to me that that's new. And how did we handle it before?
I can get back to you on that one. That one I'm not sure on.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
And then going over to damage to utility from planning. I think I've heard a couple of stories in regards to people who have purposefully planted someplace without connecting to the city beforehand. So this would be more like the malicious planting of it versus, I'm going to make me as an example. This tree was there well before I moved there, but it is absolutely on top of the sewer thing. And there's no doubt that it's destroyed or is infiltrating the sewer line, and we've resolved it. But in that particular case, this would be for...
These are for newer tree plantings. Correct.
Okay, so something that that the current owner planted.
And we usually check like the GIS. We could see when it was planted, or we know by sight. We see them out there planting it, yes.
Okay. So that's the intent, is for whoever the current owner is. We're not going to be, if somebody buys a brand new house and they happen to have a tree that's planted somewhere that...
Yeah, we're not going to pay for our staff to go remove the tree, case by case basis. So in the future, if they damage the utilities, they'd be responsible.
But it would be for the
new tree plantings.
The current homeowner, not previous homeowners' plantings.
Correct.
Okay. And next up from that is, there was was asking about is the fees for the ramps. So we're going to enter into, I think for anyone who is 65 years and over, and I'm assuming that's to be similar to other jurisdictions. I know other jurisdictions just have a flat ramp fee, like you don't have a choice. It's either you pay the ramp fee for the year, or you don't have a day by day. But are we trying to conform and give something to seniors? Or what's the background on this one?
That's the intention. It's my understanding we're just capturing current practice.
We're currently doing this?
That's my understanding, but I can follow up with you on that.
Okay. We're currently doing a boater pass for 65-year-olds?
So there is currently a boating pass for 65-year-olds. You can get them at the front desk, and I've argued about this because I was told specifically that we can't do a yearly pass for citizens because we receive federal funding for it. So the argument is about whether or not that's even legal to have the Golden Boater Pass, and it just never came back up. So I do believe we currently do have a pass for 65 and older.
But it might not be
Might not be legal.
legal?
It was not given to me for legal review, so this is the first I'm hearing of it.
It predates all of us.
So this is the first reading, so we can probably revisit that question and come back to it. Okay. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, council, we have a motion by the council president, second by Councilmember Boker. This is the vote on ordinance 1139 on first reading. So I'll call the roll. Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Shenegis?
Yes.
Councilmember Boker?
Yes.
Council President?
Yes.
By roll call vote of 5-0 in the affirmative, City Council Ordinance 1139 is adopted on first reading. Council President, would the next council meeting on February 20th be good for a public hearing?
Good to me. That's a Tuesday, correct?
Yes. The next council meeting will be a Tuesday, following the federal holiday of President's Day. And the council meeting will start at 7 o'clock, but right before the council meeting starts, we'll have a public hearing on this ordinance 1139. We're going to go to item B, special events, and I'll hand this off to Dr. Ritchie. Oh, what? Oh, whoa, never mind. Hey, always got to read the fine print. Item 13, old business, we have none. Item 14, new business. Council President.
Mr. Mayor, citizens, council members, staff, pursuant to Section 28 of the City Charter, I move to change the location of the April 1st, 2024 regularly scheduled meeting of the Mayor and City Council of Havre Grace from the council room of City Hall to the Bully Rock Residence Club. Additional detailed information will be provided on the city's website and social media.
Council, I have a motion by the Council President. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Boker. Questions or comments?
Is this moved by the request of the citizens of Bully Rock?
No. A few months ago, the council passed a resolution or ordinance that allowed us to do this. We've done this in the past, where we've had what we call mobile council meetings. We'll go to American Legion or the Maritime Museum. We've been to the Decoy Museum. We have been to the Bully Rock Residence Center in the past. So we would like to start doing that cycle again. As my administration's reaching out to different places, the first place that's readily said, bring it on up, was the Bully Rock Residence Center. We're working on other locations. So we'll work with Bully Rock first, and we'll try to do American Legion, a few other ones later this year. But we don't have the details yet, but we just want the blessing from council to have these off-site meetings. Of course, one condition with Bully Rock is it has to be open to the public. There can't, the gate has to be up, all that stuff, and that'll all be worked out. But again, that's we'd like to We thought that was good. We did it years back, pre-COVID. From time to time, we would just take the council meeting out into the community. So that's what the council president's motion is about, is just giving us the green light to work it out.
And it'll be recorded as usual, et cetera?
It'll be recorded. We can't live stream it because of the bandwidth, but it will be recorded, so we'll air it so people can watch what happened there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the council president's motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Motion to change location of the council meeting on April 1st, 2024 is approved 5-0 in the affirmative. Thank you. Item B, special events?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, all right. Item B, special events. We'll hand these 6 special events off to Dr. Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. First up, we have the Easter Sunrise Service. It is sponsored by the Havre de Grace United Methodist Church. Pastor Norman is the on-site contact person. They are, of course, a Havre de Grace 501c3. The event is a church service to be held on March 31st. Setup time is 6 a.m. The service starts at 6:30 a.m. and ends at 7:30, and then the breakdown is at 8 a.m., and this is going to be at Tidings Park. They are requesting use of the electricity at the gazebo. There will be no food or alcohol, and they have attached a map and a diagram for your viewing pleasure. And the total estimated cost for Public Works employees to provide bathroom cleaning service and restocking is $160.74.
Thank you very much, sir. Council, I have a motion to approve Easter sunrise service.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by the council president, second by Councilmember Schnagus. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Easter sunrise service, March 31st, 2024, 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. at Tidings Memorial Park. This event is approved by the council, 5-0 in the affirmative. Sir.
Yes, sir. So next we have River Sweep 2024. The sponsoring organization is the Lower Susquehanna Heritage Greenway. Peter Green will be the on-site contact person. They are also a Havre de Grace 501c3. The date is April 20th. Setup will begin at 7:30 a.m. The event starts at 8:30. The event ends at noon, and breakdown is 1 p.m. The event is cleanup throughout the city, but they're going to have sort of a home base / event center, and that will be at the gazebo at Tidings Park. They are requesting DPW services to assist with removal of garbage. They will be giving away food at this event.
Ooh.
They have attached, actually they have not attached a diagram, but the total cost for this event for Public Works personnel is $482.22.
Thank you. Council, I have a motion to approve River Sweep.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Boyer, seconded by Councilmember Boker. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. River Sweep 2024 for April 20th, 8:30 a.m. to 12 o'clock p.m. Tidings Park gazebo and cleanup throughout the city of Havre de Grace. That event is approved, 5-0 in the affirmative. Dr. Ritchie.
The next event we have, we heard a presentation on it earlier this evening by Jolene Forrester. It is the Pyrex and Vintage Fest. The sponsoring organization is the Havre de Grace Alliance. Ms. Forrester will be the on-site contact person. They are a Havre de Grace 501c3. The date for this is April 27th. Setup will begin at 7 a.m. The event begins at 9. It ends at 4 p.m. Breakdown at 5. So the location is Pennington Avenue between Lodge Lane and North Washington and St. John Street. They are expecting it to be a well-attended event. They're estimating 1,200 people in attendance. They will need some street closures on 2 blocks of Pennington and on both sides of North Washington Street and up Lodge Lane. And the closures will be from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. They will need no parking signs. There will be use of public restrooms, and they will need a couple of trash containers. They will be selling food at the event, and there will be games of chance. They have included several attachments, including an image of the signs that they're going to use, a map of the layout of the vendors, a map of downtown where the roads are going to be closed, and the Public Works employee cost is estimated to be $884.07.
Thank you. Council, do I have a motion to approve the Pyrex and Vintage Fest?
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Councilmember Jones and a second by Councilmember Shenagus. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Pyrex and Vintage Fest for April 27, 2024, 9 a.m. in the morning till 4 p.m. in the afternoon on Pennington Avenue between Lodge Lane, North Washington, and St. John Street. That event's approved 5-0 in affirmative. Dr. Ritchie.
Yes, sir. The next event is the Waterfront Festival. The sponsoring organization, the Havre de Grace Chamber of Commerce and Alliance, will be the sponsoring organization for the beer garden. The on-site contact person is our very own Bambi Johnson. They are a 501c3. The setup is going to be Friday, September 6th at 10 a.m. The event is Saturday, September 7th. It begins at 3 p.m., it ends at 10 p.m., and the breakdown is 11 p.m. There is no rain date for this event. The location is Concord Point Park. A very large estimated attendance at 5,000 people. They will need traffic control for road closures, Concord Street beginning at Alliance Street and up Lafayette to Young, and then accessible parking on Lafayette from Young to Market Street on both sides. They will be utilizing no parking signs, public restrooms, electricity. They would also like to use the portable stage that the city has, Concord Point restrooms and porta pots during the event. And they're also having the lighted boat parade at approximately 8 p.m. They will be selling food and alcohol. They will be needing the police department services for security. There will be games of chance. And then there's a nice color layout for your consideration. The cost for police department personnel is estimated to be $8,970. The cost of public works personnel is $3,536.28 for a grand total of $12,506.28.
Thank you, sir. Council, I have a motion to approve the Waterfront Festival.
Second.
Motion by the council president, seconded by Councilmember Boyer. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Waterfront Festival for September 7, 2024 is approved. 5-0 in the affirmative. Dr. Ritchie.
Up next, we have the Animal Blessing and Pet Expo. The sponsoring organization is the Havre de Grace United Methodist Church. The on-site contact person is Tammy Brinkman. The sponsoring organization is a Havre de Grace 501c3. It is a community event to bless pets and provide pet information and demonstrations to the public. This will be on September 8th. Setup begins at 10:30 a.m. The event starts at 12:30 p.m. It ends at 3:30. Breakdown is at 4:30. They do have a rain date of September 15th, and it will be at Concord Point Park. They're estimating 60 to 80 people. They will need to use the electricity at the park and the public restrooms. No food or alcohol. And they've attached a layout and very minimal costs for Public Works to just clean and stock the bathrooms at $151.50.
Thank you very much. Council, I have a motion to approve Animal Blessing and Pet Expo.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Councilmember Boyer and seconded by Councilmember Shenanigans. Questions or comments? Councilmember Boger?
No, I noticed in the, in there that they request additional security.
That box is checked, but we don't have any additional costs associated with the police department. Chief, I don't believe we actually assign officers to this.
No, so they just do it during normal patrol.
Okay, so there's no additional officers going to be working on a Sunday? Okay, thank you.
Sure.
It's a pretty PC group of people.
What?
A pretty PC group of people.
Going to the church, you get your pets blasted. I don't know. Get rowdy.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Animal Blessing and Pet Expo, September 8th, 2024, with a rain date of September 15th, 2024, and that's going to be 12:30 to 3:30 Concord Point Park. That's approved, 5-0 in the affirmative. Sir.
Last and certainly not least is the 4th Annual Susquehanna Wine and Seafood Festival. The sponsoring organization is the Seroptimist International of Havre Grace. The on-site contact person is Elizabeth Laverick. The sponsoring organization is a Havre Grace 501c3. The setup for this event is going to be September 19th. Setup begins at 9 a.m. The event date is September 21st. It runs from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. and the breakdown begins at 5 p.m. And they do have a rain date of the 22nd. It's at Concord Point Park. Expected attendance is 2,500 people. So Concord Street at Alliance to Lafayette, at Young Street via Concord Street and Lafayette Street. They will need no parking signs. They are requesting no parking signs on Lafayette from Concord Street to Market Street for support vehicles and would like to have 3 handicap parking signs. The public restrooms will be utilized. There will be food sold at the event and alcohol will be sold at the event. The event itself is going to be fully enclosed with barricades provided by Long Fence, and guests will have their IDs checked at the door and will receive a wristband that identifies them as being 21 years of age or older. They will only accept government-issued ID. There will be gambling, and they have attached a narrative of the event, a site map, a map of the parking. There is going to be some police resources and DPW resources necessary for this event. Total cost for police department is $6,210. For public works personnel, $4,420.35. For a grand total of $10,630.35.
Thank you. Council, to have a motion to approve the 4th Annual Susquehanna Wine and Seafood Festival.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by the Council President, seconded by Councilmember Shenanigans. Questions or comments? Councilmember Boyer?
I just want to say that we have seen year to year that this is a very professionally run event. It has raised the bar, and we've learned a lot from it that we've been able to apply to our own city events. They have worked wonderfully to make sure that the lighthouse, Keeper's House and the lighthouse are accessible for people, and hopefully in the future we'll see more promotion of people being able to, go in and out of those historic structures. I think it's a very well put together event. I'm very impressed by them. I volunteer personally at this event year to year, specifically in support of the Seroptimists, and I would like to see this keep going. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Fourth Annual Susquehanna Wine and Seafood Festival, September 21st, 2024, with a rain date of September 22nd, 2024, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. at Concord Point Park. It's approved, 5-0 in the affirmative. Thank you, Council, and thank you, Dr. Ritchie, for working with the special events. We're going to go to item 15, Director's Report, and we're going to go to Dr. Chris Ritchie, Deputy Director of Administration.
Thank you, sir. So I'll be brief considering the time. I do want to just thank Amtrak for the presentation today. I thought it was great, and I genuinely look forward to working with them on their project. And then I just want to congratulate Bambi Johnson and her crew and all of the people that worked and volunteered in support of the Ice Festival this weekend. It was an outstanding event. I believe our trolley drivers transported the most people they have ever transported in a 4-hour period for that event. So it was fantastic, and just congratulations to everybody. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We're going to go to Mr. Tim Borsier, Director of Planning.
Hi, everybody. On February 15th, I know I've spoke to you all before about the Safe Streets for All program. At the community center, the consultant that we've chosen for that project is doing a public input meeting. They'll have some tables set up, and the consultant team will be there just to discuss the intersections and the study intersections as part of that project, and any other intersections or problem areas in town that come up as part of that. So February 15th, 6:30 at the community center. Whoever can make it would be great. I have the permit totals for January. So we had 10 new construction permits in January, 7 renovation and addition permit, and then 12 of the miscellaneous permits. And just to kind of give a bigger picture of how development's been going in comparison to other years, Colleen Kritzer in our department put out the numbers for the first half of the fiscal year for the past 3 years. So for fiscal year 2022, from July 1st to December 31st, there were 42 new construction permits. The same time period in fiscal year 2023, there was 16 construction permits. And in this past 6 months, from July 1st to December 31st, we had 102 new construction permits. So that's 60 more than 2 years ago, and 96 more than the previous year at the same time. So we are really moving. We're really moving forward. It's obvious there is a housing crunch, but regardless of what's going on with the with interest rates and that sort of thing, people are still building and people are still buying. So things are moving forward. That's it for me.
Thank you very much, Tim. Appreciate it. We're going to go to Ms. Bridget Johnson, Director of Economic Development and Tourism. Good evening, Ms. Johnson.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and citizens at home. I, too, wanted to recognize the Amtrak team that was here earlier. We had an opportunity to meet them earlier in the day, particularly Lori O. and Pam Sickenberger from the Tourism Office. We met with Peter, Jen, Dexter, and Denise. And Denise has been supplied information. I know there was a lot of conversation tonight with information with local nonprofits in the city. We've given her the contact information for the Chamber of Commerce, as well as volunteer opportunities, housing, our partners at the county, and also job placement for the services that may be needed for new businesses or new employees. So we are happy to continue to nurture this relationship, and it was a great presentation that they gave tonight. The Economic Development Advisory Board will meet on Wednesday, February 21st. We did not meet in January, so this meeting will be at 4:00 p.m. here in council chambers, and we will lay out the plans for the remainder of 2024. Recently, the City of Havre de Grace is part of a statewide application submitted by the Maryland Clean Energy Center to the U.S. Department of Transportation for a project called the Maryland Equitable Charging Infrastructure Partnership. That is a lot of words to say that we were awarded a grant for electric charging stations that will be installed at Hutchins Park. The city will not own the chargers. We won't be responsible for them, for the installation or maintenance. The chargers will be installed and maintained by a company called Francis Energy, and this is through a partnership with the state of Maryland. This grant was submitted last year by our sustainability consultant, Ms. Wanda Boker, and we were awarded, along with other municipalities within the state, a grand total of $15 million. So we're happy, and we welcome these new charging stations. They were particularly chosen to be installed at Hutchins Park due to the proximity to the downtown. So there's a larger community map, a Maryland map, that encourages people where to charge when they are traveling up and down 95 or Route 40. So we strategically chose Hutchins Park because it is the closest to our downtown shopping district and should be out of the way of everything. So those will be installed 2024, so hopefully by the end of the year. Additionally, the equipment has been ordered for the footbridge to connect Havre de Grace to the Swan Harbor Trail. The delivery is early March. The completion of this project shouldn't take but about 3 or 4 weeks. We have volunteers on board. Thank you to the council. You've sent me emails for volunteers. We are not contacting the volunteers until the supplies are in and we are able to set our date to start construction. Again, hopefully that starts in March. The move to the Visitor Center on Pennington Avenue pretty much has begun. Our temporary location will be 203 North Washington Street, which is, of course, the old Amanda Flores spot. The official move date is February 14th, 15th, and 16th, but we have already started moving some things by hand, and we are also having the building painted in the inside prior to our move. The Tourism Day in Annapolis is this Friday, February 9th. Lori O and Pam will be joining Visit Hartford in Annapolis to attend the Maryland Tourism Coalition Luncheon and meet with our legislators. This happens every year. There's also an Economic Development Day that I will attend in about 2 weeks, and we meet with our legislators to support normally grant-funded opportunities for our local municipalities. Everything else is explorehavredegrace.com, Explore Havre de Grace Facebook page. We're in the busy season with Valentine's Day. We have the Mardi Gras parade on February 13th. We have the Masquerade Ball Saturday, February 10th. So all of this information and additional details can be found on explorehavredegrace.com or Explore Havre de Grace Facebook page. And a big shout out to Bambi Johnson and her team on the success of the Ice Festival this weekend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Johnson. Appreciate all the update on all the stuff that's going on. Good evening, Mr. George Doherty, Director of Finance. How goes it?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, citizens. We'll briefly give you an overview of the three funds, because other than that, we're just busy putting the budget together for your viewing pleasure as we go down the road. The general fund. The general fund declined just under $650,000 to $6.3 million. Basically, we received about $450,000 in tax revenues. Since my last report, we've spent a little over or a little under $1.1 million. Primarily capital projects and payroll and those kinds of regular operating expenses. Nothing individually was overwhelming. Fund 9, we had a terrific February billing period of almost $1.3 million. And you add that Tim's very healthy capital cost recovery fees since my last report. We had almost $1.7 million in total revenues. And the timing couldn't be better because we had 1.8 in spending because, as most of you are aware, February 1st is when the ENR debt service payment is due. So despite having the single largest payment every year that the city has, the fund was only down $125,000 for the last 2 weeks. So that's actually a very good sign. The Marina Fund, we added $35,000 mostly in slip renewals, and we spent about $11,000, so it actually has increased just under $25,000 since my last report to just under $900,000. So that's kind of a brief overview of what's been going on since my last report with the three major funds, and I'll open the floor to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Horty. Any questions for Mr. Horty? Thank you, sir. Appreciate the update. Mr. Melizer, Department of Public Works, good evening.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Mayor, Council President, Council members, citizens. I too would like to echo the sentiments of Amtrak. I appreciate working with Mr. Kevin Pode. He's been very forthright and worked with us on de-escalating some of the conflicts with utilities, and I just appreciate him going above and beyond, keeping us in the loop. So shout out to them. Shout out to Councilmember Shenegas for representing the Marina Commission for her report. Thank you so much. 3 quick housekeeping notes. Thank you for the introduction for the surplus of property. We are doing some spring cleaning, just trying to optimize our operations down, and I think it's a good opportunity for citizens to get a bid on some of the old equipment. I think it's a win-win. For the fee schedule, I do appreciate that introduction as well, and that's just, for us, a lot of fees associated with the development, both good for the taxpayer as well. As George mentioned, we are full court press on the budget, Mayor, so we're looking forward to getting our reports in. We meet with George this week, so we're looking forward to that. We have submitted some grant applications on that note. On budgetary, we do have a funding source needed. We have a work session coming up, and I would like to mention Monday, 6 p.m. in the council chambers. We're going to present to the council members and the developers on some of the funding sources needed. So let's keep everybody in the loop on that. Third and lastly, Ms. Lori Dawson, I want to thank her for her 15 years of commitment to the city. Congratulate her and her husband, Mr. Dave, on their retiring during the same week, so I think that's pretty cool. And she did handle some of the toughest challenges for the city in her interactions with citizens and anything public works related, and was the voice of the city for a lot of the CTY and robocalls that went out, so that was her voice that you were hearing over the years. And I just want to say, her influence spans the city. I mean, it is demonstrated all throughout the city, with whether it's the pamphlets that go out to the citizens, her answering the calls, citizen updates, signs around the city, that sort of thing. Her presence, like I said, was inspirational for me, even when coming on board, because she handed me the pamphlet. I go right over it. Here's how many citizens we have. Here's interesting facts. Here's things to look for. So I did appreciate her help, and I just want to thank her again for her service to our city and our citizens.
Thank you very much, Mr. Melizer. Appreciate the update. Any questions for EJ?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the date of your presentation?
That'll be next week, February 12th.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. And good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I want to thank Team Havre Grace when it came to this year's Polar Bear Plunge. We had a good turnout as far as team members. One of our newest members, and I believe he's going to continue his his plunging. So thank you very much, Councilmember Boker. I appreciate it. I hope you had a good time.
My pleasure.
And on the trip down there, we kept telling him that he has to, you know, once he plunges in, he has to go all the way out to the divers, high-five them, and come back. And he kept saying, "You're punking me, right?" I don't actually have to do that, but he did that. So now your rite of passage is over when it comes to that. Collectively, as a team, we raised a little over $4,500 to support the amazing athletes when it comes to Special Olympics, so we're really proud of that. The police plunge itself for Friday was a police plunge. If you're not aware of it, they have a cool school plunge for students for that's on Thursday, then the police plunge on Friday morning, and then corporate Friday afternoon, and then on Saturday they have for everybody else who wants to plunge. But for the police plunge collectively, we set a goal for $300,000, but we actually surpassed that. We raised $3,700, and I want to thank not only the plungers, but also everybody that donated. It's amazing that what people will do to help our Special Olympic athletes, and they are very, very special. So I do want to thank everybody that, you know, supported me, supported all of our plungers, so thank you very much. The other thing I just wanted to let folks know, we have 3 new recruits in our police academy. They started at the beginning of the year. Unfortunately, they won't graduate till almost the end of the summer, beginning of fall, but I'm still excited. They're still in the academy, which is good. And they're doing very, very well. So that's also kind of a good way to segue to anybody who you think might be interested in being a law enforcement officer. Please contact us, and we will gladly talk to them, recruit them. We'll do anything to get them in through our doors. So that would be it, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Chief. Appreciate the update. Any questions for Chief Walter? Thank you. We're going to go to item 16, business from the Mayor's office. Just a couple points here. You've heard it mentioned a couple times, and I'll say it myself, the Ice Festival this weekend went off extremely well. Hats off to Bambi Johnson and her crew, Barbara Hartzell, and Kylie and Bob and Jimmy Burrow was involved in that as well. There's a whole team, a whole Havre Grace team, some DPW members, police officers. Listen, we didn't know there was going to be that many people. All right. I mean, everybody kind of giving us the stink eye a little bit with, you know, overflowing trash cans and stuff. It's like, you know, we just did our best. It was, in my opinion, I was there probably for 5 or 6 hours downtown. It was at least double of any First Friday I've ever seen. So it was a lot of people. I mean, it was good. I mean, I think incorporating the Star Center into the Ice Festival, which is something new this year. They had the Disney show Frozen, which sold over 800 tickets, you know, just to families and children. We did a princess parade, and there were supposed to be 5 judges, and it ended up being 2, and I was one of them. Now, I've had some pretty mean stares up here as mayor, but man, I tell you what, when you got 60 little princesses and all their parents out there, and there's like one judge up there, like, and they're like, it was me and Barbara Hartzell. Was like, I'm like, where are all the other judges? Like, anyway, but it was pretty intense. They let me leave unscathed, but it was a nice weekend. I believe it was right. The weather was good, and I think people wanted to get out of their house. So we always in the city of Havre Grace try to make things better for, you know, years to come. So we'll have after action meetings and see how we can streamline some things. We'll talk to our merchants and get their feedback. I mean, I've heard most merchants did rather well. I hope so. We'll talk to our trolley drivers. We'll talk to everybody that's involved, our vendors, and you know, have it again next year. Wouldn't it be nice just once for the Ice Festival? It was actually cold, like, you know, maybe not like 2 years ago when it was like 12 degrees and like 30-mile-an-hour winds, but like maybe like 30 degrees, light snow, you know, something like that. Wouldn't that be nice? That's what we're looking for. The only other thing I want to talk about is, for the first time in years, we have another gentleman sitting in the Director of Administration chair, and many of you in Havre de Grace know him, but some of you do not, and this is Dr. Chris Ritchie. Chris is our Human Resource Manager for the City of Havre de Grace. He's also been, for a while, our Deputy Director of Administration, so he worked with Mr. Gamatoria. Mr. Gamatoria was our Director of Administration. Well, Mr. Gamatoria ghosted us on Friday. No, I'm kidding. No. He Steve's probably watching this. No. Mr. Gamatoria retired on Friday. He wanted to keep it very low key. Only a few people know that he wanted to end his service with the city, because if you know Mr. Gamatoria, he doesn't want any fanfare. He doesn't want any fanfare. No parties. Nothing. He wants to go the way he came. Steve Gamatoria served on council from 2006 to 2008 is when I first met him. He was actually leaving this chair when I got elected, and I filled his chair in 2008. And then he did for 1 year he worked for the marina he kind of audited the marina when Mr. Fraley left, and he did some work for the city. But Mr. Gamatoria ran for council again in 2014 when his schedule allowed for more time, because he wanted to get back involved. And so I served with him and David Glenn for a couple years, and then I ran for mayor in 2015, and Steve was the council president for a couple years after I left. And he was an excellent council president, and him and I would spend a lot of late nights in my garage talking about ideas, talking about possible legislation to make the city better, talk about the budget a lot. And I kept thinking, man, I wish somehow we could just have you full time, So I went to his garage one day after Christmas of 2016, and we spoke for about 5 hours, and I convinced him to resign as council president, and we created a position of chief of staff. We already had a position, I just kind of renamed it chief of staff, and he served in that role until I think 2021. And we did some shuffling around with the ARPA money. Patrick Seipel was my director of administration, and Patrick's excellent at projects, so we put Patrick there. We shuffled him around, and we made Steve the director of administration. So Mr. Gamatoria is director of administration since 2021, and he did an excellent job at it. I can tell you he was very, very often, he was the first one here in City Hall, and he was the last one to leave every day. I mean, I would drive by at 6:15 in the morning, he would be here. And I know he would be here with me till 7 o'clock at night a lot. He put in a lot of hours. He was dedicated. Most honest man I ever met in my life. He watched citizens' tax dollars like a hawk. And he worked with people to the best of his ability to make things right. But I'll tell you one thing. He never, ever came here for the job. He came here because he loved Havre de Grace every single day. He's born and raised in Havre de Grace. And I think what's going to hurt the most, well, at least in my opinion, and why I liked him so much being here with us every day, is he was born and raised in the city of Havre de Grace. Now, a lot of us have spent many, many years in Havre de Grace. I've spent over 30 years in Havre de Grace. But I didn't go to Havre de Grace High School. There's a difference. Like when you're talking to Steve about, growing up, the way the neighborhoods were back then and how the town was. And it was always good when citizens would call up. And I'd be like, Steve, what you talking about? He's like, give me that phone. I mean, he knew all these families going back way back. And, oh, yeah, I went to high school with that person's niece or whatever. And so, but he'll still be a resource. He's only a phone call away. And, but I just wanted to tell everybody what was going on, because Mr. Gamatoria, again, like I said, he wanted no fanfare. He did not want he didn't want a crystal vase or crystal bowl, whatever it is we give employees. He just wanted to quietly go as he came. And so that gives me great joy to introduce our Deputy Director of Administration, who I hope will be our Director of Administration, which is one of the reasons why we're going to close session. So Mr. Ritchie is a great man, and I'm very excited to be working with him here. And how long have you been with Havre Grace? Since 18?
Since January 3rd of 2017.
17. Okay, right, sorry. Chris has been with us since 2017. So we're very proud to be working with Chris. So a couple things is shifting along, as Mr. Melizer said, and Miss Lori Dawson, after 15 years, has retired. That was the voice you heard on the phone, you know, that told you if you had brown water to keep running until it runs clear. You know what I mean? Every day when I go into work and I'm told it has brown water, and I'm like, just keep flushing until, anyway. Anyway. Not brown, anyway, it's just brown because the roots penetrate the water in my school, drinking lines, anyway. It's a long story. You don't want to even know where I work. Anyway, but so there are great people who have worked for the city. You know, Tim Whitty the other day, a couple weeks ago, finally, he was our city engineer, former DPW director. All these folks, I can't blame them. They're good people. They serve the city with passion and dedication. And you know, they retired because they have good things to do. They worked really hard. This is what you do. And so we have a new team. We're in the process of team building here. We got a couple new faces coming on board in the near future. So I just want to let the citizens at home know, if you happen to be watching this, if you call in City Hall to look for Mr. Gamatoria, they're going to direct you to Mr. Ritchie. So when you bump into Steve on the golf course, you can say something to him. So with that said, those are my comments. And let's see here. Who's the first council member to speak? Councilor Schneeges.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening to all, council, administrators, and our citizens at home. I would like to invite you this Saturday, February 10th, from 12 to 4 p.m. to our local Love Fest with our downtown merchants. Come on down, shop local, and share the love sentiments that will be placed throughout the windows from local citizens to their loved ones. Maybe you will be a selected loved one that's featured. Come on down, shop, and have some hot chocolate, and just enjoy the afternoon here in our city. Secondly, I would like to say I'm going to miss Steve Gamatoria. He was the person that opened his arms, or I should say his scope and vision to the city. When I first came on council, he gave me a tour, he gave me a history lesson, and he gave me a lot of knowledge to guide me and direct me. He said, the first year you're new, after that, forget about it. So I just really appreciate his guidance, and I take with him the things I've learned into, this is my second year on council, and I feel like I have grown as an individual under his tutelage, and he will definitely has left his footprints here at City Hall and will continue to be a wonderful part of our community. I also would like to thank my wonderful friends and coworkers and esteemed team on the Marina Commission. Thank you so much, George Doherty, EJ Melizer, and Johnny Boker, for being a part of the Marina Commission team. We work together and come up with a solid, review of what's going on throughout the season and into what's, the closing season and when spring comes about. I appreciate that as I became Marina Chair 2 years ago, we have grown, and the citizens that are a part of our commission as well have evolved, and we're solid. Very few miss a meeting, and everyone has great input, and I just am grateful to be a part of the Marina Commission. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you to our citizens, and thank you to everyone that was wonderful out in the community this weekend, enjoying everything that the Ice Festival had to present to us. And I really appreciate that citizens, welcomed all of the community, the tourism. It was great. It was wonderful. And I can't say enough that it trickled into Sunday, and you could see the sun shining. People's hearts were full, and they could still go around at a slower pace and see the Ice Festival. All of the different sculptures, and just, it's beautiful. I love Havre de Grace, and I am thankful to be a citizen here. and look forward to how this year plays out going forward. And I just want to make sure that you all remember to come out Fat Tuesday, February 13th, for our lovely Mardi Gras parade. That is a highlight of the February, kind of springs us forward and gets us going into the spirit of the spring season. So we will see you then, 6 p.m., starting at Bourbon Street. Back to you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Shenegis. And we're going to go to Councilmember Boker.
Mayor, directors, citizens who are with us in the audience and who are tuned in tonight. The first thing I'll comment about is, of course, our former chief, Steve Gamatoria. I met his father. He was the first person that I met when I came to town. Had I would have met Steve, I probably would have turned around and went the other way. I'm just kidding, of course. But when I met his father, and then, of course, I immediately met Steve when they lived down at the Concord Point. One thing I can say about him is he's never said never a negative word about anyone. He's a just and upright man. He's a traveling man also, and he's just, if you even try to get something out of him, some gossip, it ain't gonna happen. You know, you might get the nod, you might go in the right direction, but he'll never say a negative word about anyone, and I really respect that about an individual. Last Friday, we did go down with the, I did go down with the Havre Grace Police Department. I wouldn't miss that for the world. Went down there, shared some wonderful camaraderie, was surrounded by so many officers. I didn't have to check my SIG, so I knew I was protected. But, you know, so what, right? So here's a council person going down and dipping in the water. Well, I'll tell you the so what in regard to that is the amount of people that you actually help. I mean, the cause is so much greater than I, and to be a part of that just made me feel really good. And I would extend the invitation to anybody who is able to do so, to get down there and kind of make it happen, because you won't really worry about the cold. I mean, well, you will, right, obviously. But just seeing the people around and the excitement and knowing that you're raising money for the Special Olympics, for crying out loud, that's fantastic. I mean, who can say that they've had that opportunity, right, to do so? And the smiling faces are just worth it all. So I just want to thank the Havre Grace Police Department and all your officers, man, for extending the invite to me and being able to take my money. That was fantastic as well. No issue whatsoever. And you know, there's such a thing called a super plunger. Are you familiar with this? You know what a super plunger does? I will tell you. A super plunger goes in the water one time every hour for 24 hours. Now, that's a little crazy, right? But I mean, that's how passionate some of these folks are. Moving on to the Ice Festival. Everyone talks a little bit about the Ice Festival. I'll tell you that the Ice Festival came about through the Merchants Group. The Merchants Group actually came up with this idea. It actually was the former owner of Blue Heron, Mr. Stephen Formwald, who actually went somewhere, saw it, brought back the idea. We batted it back and forth. When we formed the alliance, we still had this idea, and we kind of went with it, right? And the whole idea of the Ice Festival was to simply break even on the event, right? We're going to spend a little bit of money, but we're going to break even, going to recoup some of the ice. And so Bambi was able to zero the books out, basically, right? And the whole thing was to actually get people downtown, get people inside the stores, and, you know, so that merchants would actually prosper. The city of Havre Grace would be just another you know, more of a mark on the map as a place to go. Not only for we do cater a lot to the tourists, but we also cater to the citizens, right? To get the citizens downtown who haven't been downtown in maybe several years. You know, they just don't go downtown for whatever reason. The Ice Festival kind of brings folks back into town. So hats off to the team who made that happen, and the security as well. I really, you know, and the good thing about it too, so we go back for, here we go with the Cat Club. Cat Club's, you know, we go down there, you know, before the Ice Festival, after the snow, picking up some cigarette butts and trash and whatnot, and we're finding less and less. We're finding that citizens, they really have a lot of pride and ownership of the downtown area up on Seneca Avenue, up on Revolution, up by some of the stores up and down on Revolution and Otsego and Lewis, and Erie. I mean, they just get cleaner and cleaner down by the lock house. So a huge shout out. I know you're out there. I know you're not flicking out them cigarette butts. You're maybe field stripping them and putting them in your pocket or something and throwing them away. You know that term, field strip, right? But anyway, but thank you so much. Hats off to you. And you know what, Mayor Martin, I'm going to go ahead and close. As I always close, I'm going to thank the Havre Grace Police Department, the Susquehanna Host Company, and the EMS for keeping us safe and warm in our beds at night. Thank you very much, Mayor Martin.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Boker. And we're going to go to Councilmember Jones. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council directors and citizens at home. Just a few things. One, I wanted to say Happy Black History Month. We celebrate Black History 365 days, 7 days a week, but this month is designated for us all to purposely discover the accomplishments and contributions of African Americans. So I wanted to say that. On Saturday, I attended the Langston Hughes Oratory Contest at the Opera House. I wanted to say congratulations to 2 students from Havre Grace, Kanaya Charlton, who received first place for the middle school level, and Nye Sampson, who won the high school level. And then Saturday was such a busy day, I did that for about 2 hours. The mayor happened to be there as well, and then I did get to dip into the ice festival a little bit. This Saturday is the Havre Grace Arts Collective annual masquerade fundraiser. Starts at 6 o'clock. I'll be there. Hope to see some other folks there. And then I also recently was nominated as one of the American Heart Association's Women of Impact, and I'm happy to be representing Havre Grace. There was a breakfast on Friday. It was great to be there and to make sure that people knew our city was on the map. And so I am one of 8 that have been nominated, and heart disease is something close to me. My brother-in-law died at 35 from heart failure. And so this came at a good time so that I can help bring awareness to heart disease. It's the #1 killer of period, and stroke is number 5. And women and African Americans are often disproportionately affected. So I'm happy to represent the city and to also represent such a great cause. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Councilmember Jones. Good evening, Councilmember Boyer.
Thank you, Mayor, colleagues, everybody at home. Thank you for hanging on. I just want to say that the Ice Fest was amazing. The amount of people who came to our city. At one point, we were calling over to the police department for something, and the response back was, "Oh my gosh, it's so crazy here. Wait till you come into town, you're not going to believe it. There's nowhere to park. It was crazy." So I just want to point out that the plan to use the parking at the Star Center worked perfectly, and you could tell the vibe in town as you came in that there was excitement. When I went around and talking to all of the merchants, everybody was making comments about this is the best day that they've had. It's comparable to Small Business Saturday. It was just wonderful to hear. And when you're talking to people, they were just having an absolutely wonderful time. The kids are on cloud 9 looking at all of the sculptures. My favorite sculpture was the gnome. My second favorite always is the graffiti wall, just because I like that interaction with it. Kudos to everybody who worked on it. Kudos to our police department for holding it in. But when I went around talking to all the officers, they're like, there are no big issues. Everybody's following the rule of law, and everybody's just happy and getting along. And that's what we want when you come to Havre Grace. You just want it to be just a nice, wholesome experience. So kudos to everybody involved. Other kudos, Lori, you were just the kindest, sweetest person who can get things done. And we're going to be at a loss, because she's the kind of person that anybody could call and be like, this is what my current problem is. Either I've, like my trash can's been run over, or, they haven't picked up my trash in so long. And then she just takes it to ground and figures it out and makes it so our community. So replacing her is going to be a challenge. Whoever has that job, I owe you a coffee or something, because you're stepping into some pretty big shoes. And then, of course, big shoes, Steve Gamatoria, he's an anomaly. There's no other way of saying it. I am lucky enough to live down the street from him, and he has the most immaculate lawn you can ever imagine. He is in competition with his neighbors for the design pattern when he mows it. He even shovels his walk and then uses some kind of fire thing to burn off the ice, so it's not even a problem. He is like the best neighbor in the world to have. So congratulations, Steve. Very well deserved. I hope you enjoy every moment of retirement, but I'm not even sure what retirement will look like to somebody who's just always doing something. So street and traffic safety, we are going to have our next meeting on the 26th, and the mayor has asked the committee to review Chapter 90 of the Vehicle and Traffic Safety, Chapter 90, Vehicle Traffic Safety of the City Code. He has requested us to undertake a comprehensive review, focusing on identifying necessary changes to align to contemporary standards, to include current state statutes and best practices. So we'll be taking that on. I want to also let everybody know that this Saturday from 2 to 5, Concord Lighthouse is going to be having a volunteer recruitment event. And, when you think of Havre de Grace, you think of the lighthouse. But unless we have people who step up and volunteer to help out at the lighthouse, then we're not going to be able to share that history with people. So if you know of somebody who is who's new to the area and looking for something to do, a way to get involved, who can just stand at the lighthouse and, as people come in and go up and down, they're really looking for docents. So again, this Saturday from 2 to 5, we're really looking for people to come out and volunteer to support the lighthouse, so that when we have events down at the lighthouse, like the wine festival, that we have somebody who can be there and they don't close it because there's nobody to volunteer. And then finally, I wanted to say to those who have worked at Hartford Memorial, past, present, I want to say thank you very much for your service to our community. You will be missed, and we wish you all good luck. You have a long road to haul to make the community whole again, to make sure that we have the best health care available. And our community has high expectations for the best health care, because we live in one of the best communities, and we want to make sure everybody's taken care of. So thank you very much for being that wonderful resource in our town, and we wish you well as you depart and go to Aberdeen and Bel Air, wherever your jobs take you. But thank you very much for your service. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Boyer. Final comments from Council President Ringside.
Mr. Mayor, council, citizens, everybody. Yeah, lots of changes coming to Havre de Grace. Got the Amtrak bridge is going to have things all buggered up for a while, and the sign at Gall's Bakery came down yesterday. The hospital leaving, it's a shame. I met my wife there.
Gall's Bakery?
Yeah, Gall's Bakery, yeah. I wanted donuts. Now I'm at the hospital, sir. I was there because I ate too many donuts, okay, but no. She was a nurse there, and I was a security guard years and years and years ago. So, but it'd be a shame to see that building go, and all the people I've met throughout the years there. It's a shame to see Steve go. He's definitely going to be missed. I think, like, did you go to Havre de Grace High School? I did. You did? Okay, so Adam and I are the only ones up here that went to Havre de Grace High School and left. You did? I'm sorry. Forgot you over there. I'm looking this side. I'm thinking admin over there. Okay, so there's only a couple of us up here. So Steve was definitely one that he knew so much about he still knows, he's not dead. I learned that one when Carolyn lectured me last year. So Steve knows so much about the city, and Bill's right. He's like, he would tell you the history of you know, the streets and who lived where and what houses, and it was just amazing. And yeah, absolutely, he knew so much. And Johnny mentioned his father. His father used to drive for the fire company, and the most scared I've been in burning houses. Okay, but I've been in the fire department. The most scared I've ever been was being in the cab of the truck when his dad was driving. So yeah, that was frightening, but he'll be missed. Just real quick, registration's open for Little League. So if you got a kid between ages of 4 to 16, go over to https://hdglittleague.org/registration. And you can go on there and register anytime. I think they told us opening day is what, first weekend in April? I don't know, we just got that, I don't know. But stand by, I'll get the date next time. But with that said, I do need to read this. Under the Open Meetings Act, General Provision, Article 3-305. Make a motion to go into closed session upon adjournment of the open session on Monday, February 5th, 2024, to consider the following matter. 1, to discuss a personnel matter. This meeting will be closed for under General Provisions, Article Section 3-305B1, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials who have over whom this public body has jurisdiction. Any other personnel matters that affect one or more individuals. The reason for closing this meeting is discussions concerning personnel matters are entitled to confidentiality. The City Council will not resume open session after the closed session, and votes, if any, will be recorded in public at the council meeting on February 20th, 2024, and that is my motion, sir.
Council, I have a motion by Council President. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Booker. This is a motion to go into closed session at the adjournment of this meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to go into closed session at the adjournment of the meeting carries 5-0 in the affirmative. Thank you, Council President. And we're going to go to item number 19, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by the Council President, second by Councilmember Boyer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to adjourn the February 5th, 2024 council meeting carries 5-0 in the affirmative. The time is now 9:58. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you in a few weeks. Remember, the next council meeting is going to be on a Tuesday following the federal holiday. Good night, everybody. Thank you.